Commissioners meeting, regular meeting. We're going to start with an invocation by Pastor Darrell Orman of the First Baptist Church of Stuart, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to say on behalf of our church, we love all of you commissioners, and thank you for protecting us and your concern for our health, and brought each of you a gift, a chocolate-covered marshmallow Easter egg. I had a dozen, I ate 7, and I brought you 5. So it's a favorite. Let's bow for prayer. Father, we just want to tell you we love you and praise you and thank you for your provisions in our life. We thank you, dear God, for these commissioners. Ask you to put a hedge of protection around them and their families and shield them from protection from this virus, Lord. And we just want to praise you and give you the honor and the glory as you've honored our prayers. We know much of the nation is being ravaged by this disease, and we pray, Lord, that this infection, we pray that you would just supernaturally continue to pour yourself out on Martin County. Thank you, Lord, that at this point we've got 83 infected. We ask you to touch them and heal them and strengthen them. And thank you, Lord, that so far we've had no mortalities, and we want to give you the praise and the honor and the glory for it. And Lord, thank you as we celebrate the resurrection of your Son for this season. Thank you for your mighty Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, additional items, we have confirmation of Paul Schilling as Growth Management Director, and Martin County Economic Development Agency update. No consent polls. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Second. Sir.
Okay. Go. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We even practiced that.
Before you approve that's okay. Before you approve the agenda, I would ask that respectfully that we withdraw the capital improvement plan from the agenda for today. We will bring that back to you. I think, staff would like an opportunity to further evaluate the projects and look at the way that they're ranked and come forward with some recommendations as far as health, safety, and welfare, particularly first, and then our funding options. So I would ask if we could withdraw that.
Yes, ma'am. Does
Mr. Chairman, I would remove that item move that we remove the CIP from the agenda.
Okay.
Second it.
Okay. With that, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Hetherington. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Proclamations. Ms. Beaupre. We have 2. I've got to go down, so maybe just go on to the next one, too.
Yes, will do. Good morning, Commissioners. Our first proclamation this morning is a proclamation declaring Telecommunicators Week in Martin County, Florida. Public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services in Martin County, and they are a vital link for our firefighters and law enforcement officers. In honor of Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 12th through the 18th, the board honors the men and women whose diligence and professionalism help keep our citizens safe. And here to accept, we have Katya Baker, who's with the Martin County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning. Thank you to all of you for your support on behalf of these amazing men and women of 911. This year's resolution and your support means more to them than you can know, now more than ever. I really struggled to find the right words to say today. I was going to tell you about February 5th, the day Trooper Bullock died, and how the impact was felt at our communications centers. How the moment impacted the veteran dispatcher who took that first call, the fire rescue dispatchers who personally knew Trooper Bullock, and how the newbie in the room felt when she heard Officer Headings of Riviera Beach PD yelling for backup and then shooting and killing the suspect, all the while on the line with her. And how I personally felt when I had to tell an FHP dispatcher that their trooper was dead. None of us will ever forget that day, It was the worst of all of our careers. But with that being said, it seems so distant now, just 2 months later, in the midst of this pandemic that has crippled all of our lives. 911 telecommunicators are heroes every day. They show up to work for their long and unpredictable work shifts, knowing that they have no idea what their day will bring. Now, they have their temperature taken even before they're allowed to enter the building and are locked in with very little interaction in person with anyone else in an attempt to protect them and the environment they work in. We have separated some shift locations to minimize exposure. We have restricted things they can do on their time off. Most of their equipment is shared, and we're trying to do the best we can to sanitize and clean continuously. We constantly throw new policies and procedures at them in this ever-changing environment, but now with an unprecedented speed. And we're asking them to adapt and to remember to ask questions we never fathomed we would have to ask on calls ranging from VIN verifications to fires, all so that we can keep our first responders informed and alert. Next week is National Telecommunicator Week, and the reason I am here today to accept this proclamation. Normally, we have grand celebrations with prize drawings, luncheons, special themes, presents, and copious amounts of treats brought in by our field units to remember us. This year, things will be quite a bit more subdued, but please do not forget your telecommunicators. Next week, take time to post a message to them to say thank you, to say a prayer on their behalf. To those watching from home, please continue to stay home to protect our first responders. We will get through this, and when we do, these 911 telecommunicators will still be at their consoles with their headsets on, ready to answer your call. Like all first responders, these heroes will continue to be heroes long after this crisis is over. Thank you very much.
And next, we have a proclamation declaring Gopher Tortoise Day in Martin County, Florida. The gopher tortoise is threatened in Florida and considered a keystone species, sharing their burrows with more than 300 other species, some of which are also listed as threatened. April 10th is recognized as Gopher Tortoise Day, and having gopher tortoises in our area helps sustain our local ecology and provide us with a source of joy and appreciation for nature. And here to accept, we have Caitlin Kirkland with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Well, I'm truly honored to be here. As a resident of Martin County, I've never worked in a county that have really felt so much support. Our growth management they go above and beyond for us. And anytime there's even an inkling of a violation, they give me a call and let us know. And it means a lot to us to have that support from our county. So I just want to thank you guys for this proclamation. Thank you. Thank you.
Now come to our public speaking, Mr. McChrystal, Frank McChrystal. Public comment, I'm sorry.
Good morning, Commissioners. It seems like too many decisions in Martin County are now being made at the administrative level, the darkness of the administrative level. This afternoon is a good example. You will approve another 10,000 square foot jet hangar for Precision Jet with no public input at all. Again, I ask, who owns the airport? We own the airport. Tell me why, on one hand, we charge rent to entities that put jets in the sky, and then we have to pay rent to who knows who to use our own land for other businesses and public facilities at the airport. Other entities that do not put the jets in the sky. Enough of the mumbo jumbo. The reason the rules favor turning the still existing 30% non-aviation interest into jet operations at Witham is the political will in this room. Look in the mirror. Who do you represent? My grandfather, Francis Joseph McChrystal, great Irish Catholic that he was, he went to church every day and lit candles for those he loved. And I remember every time I saw him, 2 or 3 times a year, he'd pound in one thing. He'd say, Frankie, he'd say, remember one thing. A rich man has about as much chance of getting into heaven as a camel has getting through the eye of a needle. Please, do what you can to keep the 30% of non-aviation interest at Witham, keep it that way. We have to. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Okay, Jerry McEntee? You might want to,
Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you.
excuse me, could you pronounce your name correctly?
McEntee.
McEntee, okay.
I live in a gated community in Martin County, and I want to create a little bit of a clarion call for things that have to be stopped, not only in our community, but communities throughout Martin County. I come from a public safety background for about 52 years. I was a commander in a major police department up north, and ended up as a fire chief down in a city in southern Florida, which is a hell of a jump from police to fire. But one job, they hated you when you showed up. The other job, they loved you when you showed up. So I wanted to leave this career as being loved. In our community, we shut down about a month and a half ago, or 5 weeks. And the day we shut down, our manager sent out a notice to all the community, half-price cocktail hour for the rest of the event. They set up an outside bar, set up outside tables, and everybody that played tennis or golf for the last 4 weeks, not everybody, a lot of them would stop for the drinks after. Friday, tennis was shut down because the National Tennis Organization said it's just too dangerous. Common sense said it was too dangerous from day one. Golf certainly is like bees to honey. If you're a golfer, you'll drive 1,000 miles to play golf, as we see by the influx of people from southern counties to play in our courses that rightfully have stopped. In our community, about 25% are paying zero attention to the CDC rules. They get a notice from our manager saying half-price cocktails, which is, well, we'll go play our golf game. We'll come back, we'll sit around the outside bar, and we'll have cocktails. Now, golf is an intelligent, fun game. But when you risk 75% of the community who are locked down and staying there for 25% who are playing golf, it makes no sense. It creates a hazard that's not acceptable. Somehow, I'd like to see the commission find a way for the next 2 or 3 weeks to solve this problem. Now, a lot of people come up here and bark and yell and try and not give you an answer. I think there's 2 simple answers. One of the 2 would work. One is shut it down completely for the 2 or 3 weeks that we have left, we hope, in this tremendous situation we have. Or second, allow the golf, 1 person to a cart, but allow no extracurricular activities sponsored by those clubs. On a Thursday night for the last 5 weeks, we have a situation called Twilight. They get 30 to 50 couples. They have cocktails after. They all go and sit outside or stand outside. That's approximately 60 to 100 people.
Sir.
And they give out prizes.
Sir, your time's up.
Your time's up.
Anyway,
Yeah.
if you
Thank
shut
you.
down the extracurricular, it would stop the problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my fault. I forgot to mention that we have a strict policy of 3 minutes. Thank you. Jeffrey, and I'm sorry, I can't read it, S.H.
Sure.
Shearer, okay. Come on, make my job easier.
It's my wonderful handwriting.
Okay.
Sadly, it's not improved as I've gotten older. My name is Jeff Shearer. I'm the CEO of Tykes and Teens, and I'm here for several reasons. One, I wanted to thank your leadership and having these regular meetings to direct the community about what's happening here in Martin County. As a mental health provider, more information is what's better for our citizens, and you guys taking the step to make that happen, I think it helps the mental health of our community, so I do appreciate that. Just wanted to share with you about some of the things that we are doing. You may be aware that April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. Although the numbers are currently down, I suspect that probably is mainly because children are mainly at their homes and mandatory reporters are not there. We know that as stress goes up, we have a tendency to victimize those that are less powerful than us. And so I am fearful that we will see a significant uptick in our child abuse claims as we kind of come out of the fog of this COVID crisis. And so we need to make sure that we are available to be able to provide those resources to our community. It's also Victims' Rights Week, and actually today is Sexual Assault Survivor Day. And so these are all things that, as a mental health provider, that we need to make sure that we are available to our citizens to be able to provide those resources for their recovery. And we stand strong to be able to do that. And we wouldn't be able to do that without the community support, Children's Services Council, the County District, as well as lots of other providers. But I wanted to share with you about how we've been able to modify the way we have done business. So as many other providers, we moved to the telehealth format. We were able to get all of our staff onto that system by March 16th. And since that, we provided over 1,000 sessions via telehealth, being able to do that outreach and to be able to provide that service. And that's both for our psychiatric services as well as our traditional counseling services. So I commend my staff on being nimble enough to be able to do that and to convince participants to engage in that. I think now that the school has gone to a virtual format, it's become a little bit easier. In our prevention programming, in our collaboration with the school district, we actually are providing some virtual classrooms to be able to support our students in the social emotional learning, and the commitment from all the professionals to make sure that our kids navigate this and create a sense of resilience as we go through this truly has been commendable. And really, I think the buck stops with you guys as leaders of our communities. And how you have composed yourselves. I just want to appreciate your ability to be able to do that, and which gives me the ability to do that for my staff, and continue to serve our citizens here in Martin.
Chelsea Matheson.
Good morning, and thank you so much for allowing me the time to speak this morning. I want to reiterate, thank you so much to the Commission, to Ms. Krista, to Ms. Woods, to your entire staff for your leadership and dedication during an incredibly difficult time. My name is Chelsea Matheson, and I am representing the Council on Aging of Martin County at the Kane Center. I would like to provide a few updates on expansion of services for seniors that we are providing since our CEO addressed you last week. We are now offering free shopping assistance for any senior age 60 or better. Seniors can provide our team with their shopping lists, and we will go to the store on their behalf and then bring those items back to their door. We have expanded our telephone reassurance program. Any seniors can access free counseling and reassurance from one of our staff nurses or one of our licensed clinical social workers right over the phone. And this is, again, a free service. And now a quick update on food. We delivered over 2,000 hot and fresh meals to seniors last week. This is an increase of about 400 meals compared to a typical week. We also introduced a new drive-through meal pickup procedure for volunteers. In order to further minimize contact among staff and volunteers, we are now bringing the meals out to the volunteers' cars rather than having them all come into our Meals on Wheels staging area. Launching this process would not have been possible without the assistance of the team deployed by the Martin County Parks and Recreation Department. They have gone above and beyond for us from day one, and we are so grateful for their assistance during this time. Finally, I would like to reiterate that any senior in need of assistance can call us. Our navigator is available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we also have our 24/7 hotline, which is monitored continuously by one of our case managers. Please, all of you, do not hesitate to contact any of us at the Kane Center if you have questions about services that are available to seniors in Martin County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Karen Ostrand.
My return today is to basically thank all of you for the immediate contact to the office and to myself concerning the questions that I brought up about the RVs. I do want to say my most concern is the coronavirus and spreading throughout our state, and that is my major concern. And I think everyone should know how great the county has been trying to work with us. I thank you so very much, and it's important for everyone to know how hard you're working, as well as we individually are working. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. David Heaton, Children's Service Council.
Good morning. I was unable to join you last week because the council was meeting simultaneously. So I wanted to add to some of the information you received from a couple of my colleagues. Carol's here again today, and Elizabeth from the Community Foundation, to let you know that we have been working together since early March. All of us attended an EOC meeting in early March and talked about the wraparound services that were going to be necessary. At that time, the school district had not decided to extend their spring break beyond the week. So there was conversations at that time that kind of pushed us into pushing out a survey jointly from all of those organizations, United Way, Community Foundation, the CHEST, and the Children's Services Council, to gather information about what the needs were going to be from our provider portfolio and certainly the community non-for-profits. That survey was followed up with a public hearing at the Children's Services Council, where we asked our providers to give us what their most urgent kind of triage needs were going to be, and we have addressed those in a quick application process, but since pivoted to a collective approach with 17 funders that is really going to prevent us from tripping over each other, staying in our lane, and working together to strategically decide what the most important issues are going to be for the duration of this event. I think it's important for you to know that the Children's Services Council convened this group many years ago, this Funders Collaborative, to do just this sort of thing, to work together whenever there are opportunities presented for collective impact. So you can always turn to our representative, Sarah Hurd, who has ably represented the commission on our council for 4 or 5 years at least. Doug Smith has also been in that role for 6 years or so in the past. So we've had a connection with the commission for many years. I want to encourage you to reach out to myself if questions come up, but also to rely on the efficacy of our collaborative approach. Certainly, the opportunity that's presented in our effort that's resulting in weekly meetings around applications for need at this point. You've heard from Jeff, you've heard from Chelsea. Chelsea referenced the children from the Parks and Rec or the staff from the Parks and Rec programs who were helping with Meals on Wheels. Those programs are supported by the Children's Services Council. We have, as a council, agreed to fund our contracts through the end of April, which allows those programs that are not operating in their typical fashion to offer services in other ways.
Time's up, Dave.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for
Yes,
the
sir.
speaker. What were you going to say? I think this information, I apologize,
agree,
I don't mean
yes.
to be cavalier, but I think this information is very important. Mr. Heaton represents and works with so many of our not-for-profits, and they're a tremendous funder, so I think if we could just allow him just enough time to finish his comments, it might be very important to the folks that need to hear this.
Thank you for the extra time. I appreciate that. We all know here that we have a very generous philanthropic community. We have lots of people who want to help with this circumstance we find ourselves in. They want to contribute to it. But I think it's important to coordinate that effort. Elizabeth talked about that last week. I want to reinforce what she said. We have to work together in order to make our investments make a difference. And at this point in time, it's important to just coordinate our approach to the extent that we can. That's being done on a weekly basis with our joint application. That application was used by Palm Beach County initially in response to disaster. That thing has been tailored to this event, which is a disaster, but it's a sustained event that could be with us for quite some time. So the funders are not pooling their resources, they're just collectively deliberating around the various asks. The first wave of asks were, as Jeff indicated, to allow some of our not-for-profits to pivot to telecommunication. Telehealth is an example of that. The other wave of those applications has been the fact that, and you all know this, as a snowbird community, the lion's share of our funding and resource development efforts by not-for-profits occurs with an event-driven strategy from Christmas to Easter. That blew up in our face this year with the coronavirus taking away all those collective gatherings and opportunities for them to raise money. So they're in a, I guess from their standpoint, a very desperate situation in terms of making up that revenue. Now, coordination of the state, federal, and local response to that, a good example of that being the PPP loans. We have to consider all of that in our contributions and make sure that we align the Children's Services Council as a reimbursement kind of contract, a reimbursement process. We can link up with that PPP process very easily and allow all of our not-for-profits to participate, and we are encouraging that. And that question has actually been added to the universal application and is going to be part of our deliberations in the next few weeks. So, Commissioner Campy, thank you for your reference. One of the things we've allowed our programs to do is operate kind of outside their normal parameters. The Parks Department's contribution to the Meals on Wheels program is a good example of that. So thank you, and if you need anything from us, please do not hesitate to contact me, and you can always ask Sarah. She can help make that connection, and Taryn knows how to call me too. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kathy Degler.
Good morning. There's been a lot of thank yous this morning. Me too. I wanted to tell you that our family owns a small business, family business here in Martin County since 1962. We refurbish amusement rides in the winter, fix them up, and then we go north in March, from March till November, and we operate them up north. And this year we put our rides into Martin County Fair. Many of you know that. We left, we headed north, we got as far as Palatka, Putnam County, set up there, took 2 weeks, moved all of our rides, everything up there, and we were just about to open when the county came and said, we're not going to have the fair, we have to cancel. They said, however, you can park anything you have here on our fairgrounds for as long as you need. God bless them. The problem was they just didn't have enough physical space, just like us. So we parked all the rides up there, and we had 80 workers So we brought them back home. We thought, well, somehow, some way, we'll find a place to house them, and we will try to work them in whatever way we can. And thanks to you allowing us to put our bunkhouses on the fairgrounds, we made it. We'd take them to our shop, we'd work them 20 hours a week if possible, sanding rides or cleaning, whatever we could do. And they were able to get food because you had the Kyle G program going on, you had the free food the other day, you have the farmer's market, and they had Taco Bell close by. We made it. When we deemed our work to be non-essential 2 days ago, we put 42 H-2B Mexican workers on a flight from Miami to Mexico City. That was gut-wrenching. Not one of them wanted to go. They were scared to death that they'd get to Mexico and they wouldn't have any way to feed their families. Whatever we paid them, they usually would wire the money home, a lot of it, to their families. But per the terms of their H-2B visa, they're allowed to go home throughout till December when their visa expires. We had no choice. We didn't have essential work for them. We still have 30 South African workers. They can't go home. South Africa will not allow their own people to come back into the country. So we're stuck with them and of course, our American workers. But I just want to say thank you so much for letting us stay there. I don't know what we would have done without that. I just don't know. And there's a lot of small businesses hurting in Martin County, family businesses especially. We don't have a way to make a little bit of money. We're either open or we're closed. Restaurants can eke out a little money, but we can't. So and this stimulus plan is wonderful, except they can't get the money to the people. We've tried. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Andy Degler. That's my last speaker form. Anybody's? Now?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm third generation in the carnival business. Second generation just sat back down. We find ourselves in a unique position just by the nature of our business. As she said, we actually rolled into town with 102 employees. We found different places to locate them in terms of housing. I've done my best to try and follow any CDC guidelines in terms of social distancing. It's not easy. Right now I have 30 South African kids in their 20s whose parents call me daily asking what's going on. I can't get them home. They're stopped in Dubai and they're not allowed to go fly into Johannesburg or into Cape Town. It's a unique situation, to say the least. We're doing our best to try and maintain social distancing and following all the rules. Housing has become an issue. I'm using my own property around town to separate as many people as I can. I actually have an accredited school that travels with me. So on top of all of this, I'm trying to manage distance learning for the 12 students that we have. It's unique and extremely difficult. I wanted to say thank you to all of you, as well as Jay Spicer, for giving me the opportunity to house some of my employees at the fairgrounds. We had a tough decision to make and sent home a lot of our Hispanic workers who have been with us for years. Obviously, none of them wanted to go back to Mexico. Our South Africans are scared, to say the least. They come up to me daily with questions that sometimes I can't answer. But knowing that they have a place to live and knowing that that we're going to try and take care of them the best we can has done a lot for them, as well as my American workers who have been with me for years, since before I was even in this business. Understand that if for some reason we would have to get rid of that housing, a lot of them have no place to go. They would become homeless. And we are their home and their family. So I implore you to continue helping us out, helping our entire community out. My family's been here a long time, both sides of my family. And I want you to know that I am extremely grateful for everything that you have done and that Jay Spicer has done at the fairgrounds. And that being said, thank you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Woods.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm reading what did I do? I'm going to read a letter that we received by email yesterday evening from the Hutchinson Island Preservation Initiative as part of public comment. Dear Martin County Commissioners, I write on behalf of the Hutchinson Island Preservation Initiative in response to the April 7th BOCC agenda, as attending the meeting tomorrow would violate Governor DeSantis's April 1st order requiring Florida residents to stay at home except for essential activities, and his March 24th order directing the state surgeon general and state health officer to issue a public health advisory urging the public to avoid all social and recreational gatherings of 10 or more people. Additionally, as the majority of our directors are over the age of 60, attending the meeting tomorrow also would violate Governor DeSantis's April 1st order stating that all senior citizens shall stay at home and take measures to limit the risk of exposure to COVID-19. The HIPI Board of Directors, along with all other responsible citizens, only will be able to view the BOCC meeting on cable TV from the safety of our homes. Therefore, we respectfully request that the BOCC provide a detailed description of any and all planned projects on Hutchinson Island, along with the details about how the $106,650 earmarked for Hutchinson Island MSTU will be spent on project 2028A Hutchinson Island beautification. As the 2021 CIP sheet indicates, the $106,650 will continue to be set aside to fund projects on the request and direction of the Hutchinson Island Coalition. As of March 2019, the Hutchinson Island Coalition ceased to exist. Therefore, we request the Board of County Commissioners provide all residents of Hutchinson Island who pay the Hutchinson Island MSTU and to whom those funds must provide direct benefit, ample notification, and opportunity for review of the public commentary on any and all planned expenditures of those funds prior to the final approval of the CIP and the Hutchinson Island MSTU millage rate. Any information given to our group will be posted on our website, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages and included in email communications and newsletters in an effort to provide accurate information to as many Hutchinson Island property owners as is possible. Respectfully, Elizabeth Farrar, Communications Vice President, Hutchinson Island Preservation. And acknowledging that that comment is rendered moot because we've withdrawn the CIP agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner comments, Mr. Smith.
I don't have any direct comments this morning. There's some, are we going to have a conversation about where we are currently before we go into the agenda, or are we going to go into our agenda and then, are you planning to do any sort of an update as to where we are?
It's up to the board how they'd like that.
I'd like to hear an update.
I'd like to hear an update.
Okay, then I do have a couple comments.
Okay.
Because if we weren't going to do that, I would say, no, I'm all set. I think there needs to be probably some discussion, some updates on where we are with golf and the executive orders from the governor's office relative to what we can, what we can't, where we are. I read something on the news this morning relative to that we quietly opened up the boat ramps this morning. I don't know that we quietly opened them up. I think we're still closed just for the weekends, except for commercial traffic, but I think we ought to update on the boat ramps. And also, I think there ought to be a little bit of I guess, some discussion relative to the RV issue, just so that we're clear from where we left it last week, just so we understand where we are in that current.
Would you like to get Michelle to give an update before we continue with?
I think that'd be great.
Okay,
if you're wanting
Michelle,
to do that.
please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michelle Jones, Emergency Management Director. As you know, we re-signed our local state of emergency to continue for another 7 days. We started to launch a series of videos designed to keep residents up to date. Ms. Krista starred in that video yesterday, which we appreciate. It's our Martin County update, which is available on MCTV, on our website, martin.fl.us/coronavirus, and Channel 20 and UVerse subscribers, Channel 99. Our local state of emergency has been extended. We're continuing to work with Cleveland Clinic and Martin Health and the Martin County Department of Health and Treasure Coast Hospice as we continue to forward plan, as we see residents in our hospitals and what that may look like, and then continuing to work with our nonprofit partners with our Community Recovery Task Force to offer those wraparound services which were previously mentioned, working with all of those nonprofits to provide food, financial assistance, direct support to them as needed. And continue to have the Community Information Center open and available to residents. That number is 772-287-1652. We will be closing the Community Information Center on Sunday for Easter Sunday to allow staff to have that day, but they have been answering a tremendous number of calls, and we greatly appreciate them. Governor DeSantis's office had sent out a frequently asked questions regarding the emergency order. And part of that, Ms. Woods, I'm not sure if we want to discuss the ability for local governments to impose stricter measures for us. So that is on the table if that is something you wish to discuss. But I know that we've gotten discussion for boat ramps, golf courses. Those obviously continue to be a large question on our social media platforms.
Questions for Michelle?
And I just had one, I'm not for Michelle, just one following comment when you're
Stacy, did you have a question?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Michelle, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Very much. And just my last comment, I don't know that we've ever had the Degler family come before us before and ever do public comment in my 20 years of being here, but I would just like to thank the Degler family for their decades. Sorry.
Move your chair over.
For their,
I know you're new to this process.
yeah, I know. Sorry. I'll get it by November. Just for their decades of service to our community. You know, we don't get the opportunity sometimes for businesses that have been part of our community and certainly have shaped our community in many, many ways to thank them. But thank you all for your decades, literally. When did you say you started, 62? That was a really good year. Thanks. You can all do the math. What's that?
Commissioner Heatherington.
I think I have control over your mic. I can just pull it back. Maybe want to try that over there, too. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things and observations this weekend. Number one, I read this article on Florida politics, and it says the key COVID-19 model forecasting will be peaking earlier in Florida. And I don't see anybody from the Department of Health here or local, but if there is modeling in the state, which I suspect there is, if our folks our local health department is doing a tremendous job, if they could reach out to the state, because the more data that we have, you know, the more educated decisions we could make on, you know, where are they getting this data on the projected peak, and how does that sit for our dynamics here locally and our hospital capacity and equipment, et cetera. So I just asked our local health department to reach out to the state and see if they could get us some of that data and modeling information. And then a couple observations from this weekend. A couple residents had called me and said that soccer fields over by the boat ramp park in Palm City were packed with people playing soccer. I was walking the Roosevelt Bridge and looked down, and there must have been 18, 20 people playing basketball. So from our end, you know, the parks, I know that the governors had encouraged biking and hiking and those kind of things. Pickleball courts is another thing. I've been getting a lot of calls. Those are things I think that we can lock. If it's a pickleball court or a tennis court, which obviously we're not encouraging group activities right now. We're at a safer at home order, so pickleball with 30, 40, 50 people is just not appropriate right now. So in my opinion, where we can, the Parks Department lock those facilities like tennis courts I understand we're probably not going to be able to do that with soccer. Maybe put a sign up at soccer fields. You would think this would be common sense, but apparently it's not. So, but I really think that we need to shut down those places that people are congregating, like the courts, etc. And then I wanted to say to Ms. Krista, you did a very nice job in that video.
Oh, thank you
very much.
That was great.
And then testing info, that's the other thing I'd like to hear a report on, our testing, how many we're testing. I'm seeing a lot of different things in the community, getting a lot of questions from different people. Apparently there may be some new testing for antibiotics, but people aren't sure if that's, what does that mean and what days should you test? And I don't have the answer, so maybe that's something that a medical professional can provide on the different forms of testing, and if they're valid or not. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Campy.
Mr. Chair, thank you. A couple of points this morning. First off, to the Deglers, I know that at our last meeting there was some conversation in regards to folks that were staying in RVs on the property. So I did have an opportunity this weekend during the drive-up green market that they are hosting at the fairground to see firsthand, and also to have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Jay Spicer, the fair manager, and I think he does a better than fair job. But I did notice that the trailers or the RVs that were there were very spaced apart. It wasn't like they were right on top of each other. There's a large open space there. I know that Mr. Spicer said that many of the RVs had already left or were going to leave, but that there were some that literally had no locations to go. Those RVs during the fair would have been there anyway, so it's not like they are on an empty field. Last year, the county and the health department required the fair to install the infrastructure, the sanitary infrastructure onto that site, even though they were in the process of vacating or soon to be vacating that location. Maybe it turned out to be fortuitous that that project was put in place, because now those RVs that are still on that location do have the appropriate health department approved sanitary hookups. So if you think about it, to their south is the Parks and Rec maintenance yard, to their west is the railroad tracks, to their north is the remainder of the fair, and to their east is the Martin County School District school bus depot. So I personally think that having those few remaining RVs that are there housing people that literally have nowhere else to go, because we could just push them, we have the ability to, I guess, push them off that property to go somewhere else. I did hear that if they were to go to a recreational RV park, the expenses would be in the thousands of dollars with no real understanding of how long they would have to be there. And then you're also putting those RVs in a much more close quarters that would be an RV park. We've heard earlier this morning from Ocean Breeze that they have their own concerns with transient RV rentals coming their way. So I personally think that leaving those RVs would be the right thing to do. And if that needs to be in the form of a motion for staff, I would make a motion that we allow those remaining RVs to stay. I know that the fairground is not ours, it's leased to the Fair Association, but I just want the Degler family, their employees that are currently living there with nowhere else to stay, to have a little assurance that they wouldn't be requested within a couple of days' notice to up and leave. So I wanted to just give a little more clear direction. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I think that's the least we can do. The Deglers have been as they said, a generational business in our community.
Yes, and Commissioner, thank you for that. With the only caveat, if you will, the health department did reach out to us, and they wanted to be able to go over and do their inspections as they normally would. So I would just say, as long as they're in compliance with the health department.
I think that's reasonable.
I'll second his motion.
Okay. Is the motion appropriate?
Would you like a motion for that, Ms. Krista?
I think
I'd like to know what the legal ramifications are for us making an exception to. How long do you propose to host these private employees to be on publicly owned land.
Well,
I think that there has to be a legal response. There should be some legal research into what our abilities are and what our responsibilities are.
Ms. Woods.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hurd, I believe I've rendered the opinion in the last few weeks. We've reviewed the lease. They are within their rights under their lease with the county. They have a long-term lease for the operation of fair operations, and they have broad, again, they're regulated under a state statute as a chartered fair association. They are within their rights to have these RVs on that property. This type of activity has gone on for as long as I've been aware. As one of the other commissioners pointed out, they have this when they have the fair. They've had these sheltering, and again, I think we're well within our rights to. We really don't have control over them, other than as the commission pointed out, they still have to comply with the health department rules and with all the governor's orders as to compliance with social distancing and all of those things, just as any other entity would. But again, I don't have a legal basis at this time to tell them or order them off.
What's the limit on the number of recreational vehicles that could be put on the fairground property? Could we, if they're socially distanced, then could they add another 100 RVs?
No, ma'am, I don't think so.
What exactly are the limits?
Amend your motion to existing, maybe.
My understanding in hearing the staff discussions about this is a limited use in response to, from what's been explained this morning in the comments, to almost a humanitarian request for relief. It's small and self-contained. I have not heard that there was any intent to expand beyond. As to your question of the limits, I think that would be based upon the capacity of the sewer and water hookups that are on the property and what the health department would allow to be done. I've not ever heard of even a whisper of having a vast expansion of this. And again, I think the use currently, the way it is a limited use in response to a problem. But should something like that expand and should it pose a health or safety, then at that point we would come back to the board and ask for your direction. But at this point, I don't see a legal basis.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, just a follow-up. Why even then would we do a motion? In many cases, people don't exactly understand what we do and how we do our work. We make comments at a commission meeting, and I suspect that's why the Deglers are here this morning, because of last week's comments. And if I were a business in our community that were concerned about what actions might be taken against me, I would probably show up, and I'm thrilled that they're here. The reason for seconding it, and Ed, thank you for making the motion, is that to send a very clear message to the Deglers and to anybody else that we are, as a county, not going to take any action against the fair or against the Deglers or whoever might be living in those trailers for this moment in time. Whether we could or couldn't, it just sends an abundantly clear message that we're not going to. My purpose for agreeing to doing this, and I want them to leave today with people have enough to worry about today versus their local government doing something to change the direction of where their existence is. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to, Mr. Chair, I still have the floor, I believe. I just wanted to clarify that I don't believe that we as a county or as the commission are hosting those individuals on that property, and I don't believe that I should say I understand that the underlying ground that the fair property is on is Martin County property, but we have a long-term lease, and as you just mentioned, Ms. Woods, they are completely, the fair is within their rights to host those individuals. I like the concept, and I'll add it to my motion, that they cannot exceed the capacity of the sanitary system that is in place. If the seconder would agree to that.
That's fine.
But
The
also,
health
I think to
department,
Commissioner Smith's point, that I want to send a clear message with a motion that, Mrs. Degler mentioned that their fair was currently located in Palatka at the time, and when they had no choice, the local government up there to pull the plug, they willingly let an out-of-town vendor store all of their equipment on their county property, and I'm sure this conversation didn't take place. We're talking about human beings, that the Deglers are looking out for their own employees. They said most of them went back to Mexico. The others can't leave the country to go back to South Africa, even though I'm sure that was discussed. So I appreciate my colleagues' concern to make sure that everything is on the up and up. I went there to personally look at it. I think the isolated location is appropriate and the sanitary infrastructure is in place. I would call the question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say I'm not going to be supporting the motion. There are lots of Martin County residents who are going to become homeless in this pandemic, and we need to treat everyone equally and not choose winners and losers. And I believe that that's what this motion does.
Thank you. Well, I feel comfortable that in supporting the motion that even if we can keep several people from becoming homeless, I feel good about that. And if other people are about to become homeless, they should reach out to a multitude of not-for-profit options or contact your commissioners, and we will work with you on trying to find options. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Thank you. That was just, I have some additional comments,
Yeah,
please.
please go.
Thank you. Thank you. This is our regular commission meeting, but I don't think anything is regular anymore. I don't think most people are using the word regular. When I saw some emails and folks had contacted us about why are you having a commission meeting and why are you having it in person? But we've all, I assume, received emails of people that like the fact that we are still meeting. We are socially distant. I've seen the federal government, the state government in Florida, in New York, and anyone else that seems to be doing a press conference. I think there is something reassuring to the citizens of Martin County that we are still conducting the business of the county. This is definitely a twilight zone time that we are in, but I don't think that we fold up our tents and just go home. The people expect this of us, and I think our Martin County employees are still required to do their jobs, infrastructure, public safety, utilities, maintenance to our multi-million dollars worth of valuable property that we own and the multitude of locations. Those folks are still working, and the ones whose jobs were sort of temporarily become obsolete, I know Ms. Krista has repurposed those employees to work in other areas. So we can keep our own employees, and we're setting an example where I believe our governmental employees are essential workers. And the ones that happen to work in categories, for instance, maybe library employees, have been repurposed and retrained to work in other areas that are essential. So that's why I think we're having the meeting. The other thing that we discussed at our special meeting the other day was communications, and I think that this is our best avenue to communicate to our residents, to not only inform them, but to instruct them and hopefully to inspire them. And I want to pick up where Commissioner Smith had left off about a very difficult decision, I think, that's important to be made. And in the benefit of trying to be concise, I quickly wrote it down so I can say it concisely without rambling more than I might have already. We are traveling down an uncharted road on how to address the issues affecting our residents. We have tried to bring a logical, measured approach to implementing restrictions, but some of our attempts to balance our physical health with our mental health and our financial health have been more difficult than we would have hoped. As we are all aware, the counties to our south have sadly become what has been now called hotspots. The statistics sadly prove that out. Because of that, their governments have taken the unprecedented step of shutting down nearly everything in their counties. They are charter governments, which is different than our constitutional government, which allowed them a lot more leeway in how restrictive they chose to be. They then went and had the governor of Florida create an executive order that reaffirmed their local decisions to basically close down everything. This action then created a ripple effect up into our county. We tried to address the tremendous influx of residents from down south that have basically overrun our public and private facilities. We try to work through this. I know that my colleagues have met with businesses and constituents groups in their districts, and I certainly did in mine. Last week, I was very fortunate to have all 7 golf courses in my district all agree to continue to ramp up their CDC sanitary restrictions of their players, and also to go to what would have been a voluntary decision on their part to go to a Martin County resident-only policy. I'm sure my commission colleagues would agree that most of the very concerned emails that we received from our residents were about the large influx of potentially out-of-town players. I understand, as the gentleman spoke this morning, people will drive 500 miles for the opportunity to play golf. I happen to have a father who is a professional golfer, so I know this to be factual. With that in mind, I think that we have tried to work through this, and I would like to thank all of the private courses that have participated in trying to give our residents an opportunity to recreate. We did hear from the governor's office that golf was classified as one of the quote-unquote essential recreational activities. We worked on the Florida Professional Golfers Association rules and the USGA rules not to touch the flag stick. There are no rakes in the bunkers. There's no reason to put the ball in. There's no ball washers. They sanitize the golf carts. Yet, and many clubs were able to regulate their players over this last weekend to keep it to Martin County residents only. But several were not able to or were unwilling to. And I think that that has now created quite a problem for the rest of us. The conversation about boat ramps is another one where we tried to craft a fair and reasonable approach to how we were going to handle recreational boat use. We were completely overrun. And remember, we're not just talking about boats on the ramps. We're talking about folks that came with pickup trucks and large boat trailers that put their boat in the water, and then once the actual official parking spaces are gone at our sites, they would get creative and put the trailers and trucks wherever they fit. And when then that was full, they would park them on the side streets and block the road, or they would pull up, and I've heard from many folks where they were pulling up onto people's front lawns and just abandoning the vehicles for the day, even if it was a parking ticket. I've heard that many people just took that as a parking fee. So I think that beyond the use of putting boats in the water, they left behind a real problem for our residents that also they're shopping in our convenience stores, they're going to our gas stations, they're doing those things that under any other circumstances we would be happy to have them come. But under these circumstances, I think the 5 of us, it's our responsibility to protect and represent our Martin County residents first and foremost. I wished the governor and his office would have created a statewide policy. It would have eliminated a lot of this leapfrogging of regulations. South, Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade have very restrictive rules in place. We tried that. We've tried to collaborate with our Treasure Coast counties and have had a difficulty doing that. The governor could have created, and hopefully still will create, a statewide policy to address these issues. I've been in constant contact with members of the St. Lucie and Indian River County Commissions. I know that I spoke to Indian River, they're closing their children's playgrounds, if they haven't already, because they were sanitizing them twice per day, but obviously as soon as you're done sanitizing it and the kids come back on it, it's no longer sanitized. I believe we need to add playgrounds, sadly add playgrounds into that mix. So with that in mind, I think we're having another special meeting this coming Thursday, correct?
Yes, sir.
I would ask the administration to begin the process of looking at how we would close our boat ramps to recreational use, not commercial licensed uses, and request that our local golf courses that are open to the public, that have that folks can come from other counties and play. I know we can't necessarily, and I spoke with Ms. Woods this morning about creating policies that restrict. We cannot do that at boat ramps, but I think it's important and it's time that we do that now. I think there is, all of us that are following the statistics and the numbers, we've had dramatic increases each day here in Martin County. As the pastor said this morning, we have been very fortunate to have no fatalities in Martin County, but I pray that that remains the case. But even our county to the north, our immediate next door neighbor to the north, has just announced their 5th fatality. I think this issue is serious, that we need to start to take these steps. I want our residents to understand that your commission and the administration tried very hard to balance out the needs of social distancing with mental and physical health, but I think we've reached that point, sadly. So I don't know if my colleagues will agree or not, but I think we need to take that step at this point, at least for the end of the month. I've been following along that many other communities in Florida have done that, and many other states in the nation have also done that. I compliment the folks that have been trying to do this, but several weeks ago, the governor shut down restaurants and bars and sent all of those employees home for the most part, except for the ones that were able to do a much, much smaller takeout and delivery business. I think the need of everyone to sadly suffer the consequences of this epidemic we're going through, it can't just be restaurants and bars and malls, anyone that worked retail, they've all been furloughed. The last thing I would say, Mr. Chair, is that there are now many different policies and procedures in place by the federal government that will address employees that will find themselves temporarily or longer out of employment. The Paycheck Protection Policy or plan is very easy to navigate. I know the state's having some issues with it, but I've spoken to many people that found it easy. It's generous in its dollar amounts, and there are many other advantages for businesses now to weather this difficult storm. I know that our BDB can address some of those issues, or your local FDIC-insured bank can answer those questions as well. Mr. Chair, I thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, our greatest responsibility right now is the protection of public health. And the way that we do that is we prevent as much human interaction as possible. That's how the virus is spreading. It's spreading from human to human, from infected to uninfected. So the more we can, if these measures may seem draconian, they're not. They're protecting people's lives. So I'm in favor of doing everything that we can to limit social interaction. And if that means shutting down golf courses, and if it means shutting down boat ramps, then I'm all for it. And also, Commissioner Hetherington, last we said that you witnessed large gatherings of people. And last week, the sheriff told us that he had 3 choices. The first is to go with a uniformed sheriff and make a gentle recommendation to break it up. The second is a misdemeanor, and the third is to put them in jail. So our sheriff told us in no uncertain terms last week that he had enforcement powers. So I think that if you see a group, a gathering that's inappropriate, call the sheriff and ask them to investigate, ask them to intervene, because that's unsafe. That's putting all of us at risk. And I also want to say that we all know that the hot spots in Florida are to the south of us. Particularly the hottest spot is in Palm Beach County, and an observation is that one thing that has kept Martin County from turning into those is our very careful growth management plans. The plans, the laws that we put in place over the last several decades are protecting us right now. Otherwise, we would be experiencing those same sort of infection rates as the counties to the south of us are. And also, are we doing daily MCTV updates? And if so, at what time? And if not, why not?
Yes, Commissioner, I'm sorry, I was distracted with Ralph talking on his phone. Yes, we started daily updates yesterday. We did our first one around 1:45, and they were able to push it out sometime in the early afternoon or not too late afternoon. So we are doing those on a daily basis.
At what time?
Our plan is we'd be taping them around 1:30, 1:45, depending on the availability of staff and myself, and then we push them out by I think it was out by 3:30 yesterday at the latest.
So I think we need to set a time when they're actually going to be aired so that people can predict when they need to be tuned in to MCTV for that daily update. So if we can settle upon a time, that would be great.
Yes, Commissioner, we did. We started airing that yesterday. We were able to share it on our social media a little early, but we did say we would start airing it at 4:30 p.m. on MCTV. We did share that with everyone. So every day at 4:30 p.m., and then it'll run regularly throughout the programming, but that is a definite time, every weekday.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Those are my comments.
Mr. Chair, just one other edification, please. I want to tell you I appreciate the video that you put together, and I like that Commissioner Hurd's idea of putting it specifically on Channel 20, but I know that it had hit all of our social media platforms because during, when I was scrolling through many times throughout the day, and I know commissioners had shared it, it's popping up quite a bit. So, and the final thing, I apologize, I forgot, I didn't write it down, is the advantage of now potentially closing our boat ramps or closing our boat ramps and golf courses is I believe that's the last two activities that folks coming from out of county are coming here for. They're not coming up to go to the gas stations or supermarkets because those amenities are open in their counties. I think the large influx was golf and boat ramps. Thank you.
Really briefly to add on to that, and pickleball is something that I think from South County that they are coming up. So my recommendation is we lock those courts.
Okay, is it my turn now? Okay. I agree. One thing that was left off the list, Stacy, that you came in, and it's the most obvious in my mind that should be done now, not next Thursday, is playground equipment. Needs to be cordoned off. I mean, that's a touch surface that, the contact sports that we're talking about, yes, absolutely, and I fully support that. Boat ramps, in a perfect world, everybody staying in their lane and doing what they're supposed to do. 90% of the boating is done by families. It's a shame that we're forced into doing something that we don't want to do. But yes, I mean, when we have people coming from up south, down south, and parking in people's yards, this is a situation we can't control, and it's gone past the point of trying to enforce it. So I'm unfortunately, being a boater myself and fully, I get it. The bathrooms in the pavilions, they're closed now, or are they not, in our parks?
Which pavilions? You mean in
I'm
any?
just asking in general.
Not to my knowledge. If the park is open, we're cleaning those more regularly, but they're not. We've not taken that specific action. So I think
Their touch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and on a completely different subject, a dear friend of my family's and a pillar of our community, Corky Hudson, passed away recently, and he was a friend to pretty much everybody in Martin County for as long as I can remember. I could tell a story of how he taught me when I first started and taking over our business. It was an interesting thing, and if anybody's got 15 minutes one day, I'll tell them about it. But he was a huge part of my life and a lot of people's lives in this county, so I just wanted to bring that up. Ms. Krista.
Well, I've heard a couple of things, so I would, As we had talked about earlier, so when we first got the governor's executive order, which was on the 1st of April, and it was received early in the afternoon, one of the essential businesses on here, and I start that out by saying they say that these are, this document gives advisory guidance on defining essential critical infrastructure. So when you go to that and you read that it includes transportation and logistics, maritime transportation workers, dredges, port workers, marinas, etc., equipment operators to include maintenance and repair companies. So when I made the decision that we should be closing the boat ramps, it was based on the executive order that we got from the governor and looking at what they had done to the south, because they were very specific on that about boat ramps. Then on Saturday sometime, we were made aware of the governor's next order, which came out at 6:36 p.m. on the same day as the prior one. And that one was very clear that it would supersede any conflicting official action or orders, and that it made it seem, and they also went on to say that we could be more restrictive as a county. I did not feel that as the county administrator I had the authority, or nor did I have the opportunity to have the commissioners take specific action. And so I pulled back a little bit on the boat ramp issue, particularly just to be prepared, because the playgrounds, all these discussions, if we're going to close all those down, I wanted the board to have that conversation and provide us with direction. So that's what I'm looking for today. So I've heard boat ramps, the golf courses, the RVs we talked about a little bit, but going back to the CISA guidelines, one of the essential, they're under their commercial facilities sector, they list, let's see, where is it? They list hotels, motels, conference centers, lodging. So an RV, the opinion that was received from the Florida RV Association under this executive order, that RV parks and campgrounds are providing commercial lodging establishments. And so this is just an example how this information comes to us, and we have to peel it apart and come up with a recommendation to the board accordingly. So I just wanted to follow up on that. Playgrounds we can do, absolutely. We have about 26 to 30 of them, and I talked to staff about that yesterday. We will put to the best of our ability, but I think, we've been asked to leave the parks open, and I don't know if you're going to provide passive opportunities for folks. I think the restrooms then are the other question. So we're just looking for guidance today. That's why this is so important for us, and you as commissioners are dealing with your constituents, and the last thing we want is to put you in a conflicting situation, if you will. And so the more specific you can be for us, we'll get staff on it, and we'll start, and give me a day, when do you want to start it, as soon as possible, or we need messaging. It's going to be very important that we have a specific day and time that this will all take place.
Well, I personally agree with the fact that having open space available for people. I think it's our responsibility that any areas that could transfer this, it's our obligation to eliminate that. That would include the bathrooms. That's the easiest place to transfer. The pavilions, the picnic tables, such as that. Unless somebody else has, and the obviously the playground equipment, the tennis courts, pickleball courts, anything that has competitive play that you could actually come in contact with somebody. It's our obligation. We need to do that. Absolutely.
I agree.
Yes. So any other, go please.
The bathroom issue, I'm torn, because I think that if we stepped up our cleaning and sanitizing of the bathrooms to almost daily, I think you can, especially as a parent, my kids have gotten older, but I do remember when we were in the recession in 2008, when Parks and Rec under a different administration, closed the bathrooms, but quote-unquote left the parks open, especially if you're a father with daughters, having those bathrooms available. I mean, I think I'm torn on that one. I get your point that it's a potential point of contact and transfer. I like the Commissioner Hurd mentioned last time, I think it's important that our residents understand that our open space parks are open. Because a lot of people that live in confined spaces or don't have big, vast backyards or public spaces have to be able to go somewhere. But I'm torn on the bathrooms.
Go before you come. I really honestly believe that
That could be our
is-
motto. That could be our new parks motto. Go before you arrive. Go before you go.
Because that, I mean, we're looking out for our own employees.
I understand.
mean,
So, all right, so then that's it. That's why we're here trying to brainstorm. I would do Mr. Chair, I would do the playgrounds today. I think we've already. Well, the golf courses, I think, is a
Well, we're not-
business enterprise, and I think there has to be a.
We're talking about our stuff, I think.
That's what I mean. Our stuff, it's easier for us to control that, but to the suggestion for private businesses, I think there needs to be a ramp down period, maybe at least till Friday.
I think the conversation we're having right now is strictly our own. We can have a separate.
Oh, I apologize.
You're asking for direction on what we're doing internally?
Just for our stuff, correct?
Just for our stuff.
Both.
Let's finish with that first.
Okay.
And then we can go off to that.
So right now, you're only talking about county
Facilities.
facilities.
right.
Okay.
Do we? Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have to either wave your hand at me
Well,
or.
I thought I was doing
I'm
that.
staring at your thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. You're too polite.
Thank you. So my comment on the boat ramps is that this morning when I went by two of my boat ramps, they were at 10% capacity. So during the week, I still don't believe that during the week is an issue for us. The weekend is a whole nother issue, and I thought we had addressed that, and I think we also addressed this weekend that I guess staff had heard from some commercial fishermen up in the northern part of the county, so we opened up the boat ramp that is next to the sailing center for just commercial fishermen this weekend.
Licensed.
I'm sorry,
Licensed
commercial fishermen. And so I don't know during the week that there's an issue. Saturday when the weather was nice, Sunday was awful, there wasn't a boat on the river from what I could see from my house. So I'm not supportive of shutting down the boat ramps for the week. I think the weekend is perfectly part of the issue, and I think that's something that we have dealt with, and we should continue that policy, my opinion. The bathrooms,
That's
I
where
gotta
we're
tell
at right now. That's where we're at right now, is closed on the weekends and open during the week, or?
Yes, but we've not announced that because we were initially going into this with a hard close based on the governor's order, and then we saw the other order that allowed us to be a little bit, go back to our other schedule.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now one that is picking up food and going and using our parks and eating lunch outside versus in the car at about a 50-50 rate. I can tell you from one person having our restrooms open is imperative. You can't, I don't believe that that's a good idea to shut our bathrooms down. If we have to clean them 3 times a day, then clean them 3 times a day. If you're going to have public and if there's an issue, I don't want to be the person that explains to that person why we embarrassed them from the point of having a locked door. I appreciate the go before you go idea. In practicality, that doesn't necessarily always serve itself. The other things I'm fine with. If I said the other things, the pickleball court and the tennis court thing. The golf course thing, I think, is another problematic issue. I think I've heard from multiple, as we all have heard, I'm sure, from multiple different sides of this. There are those that have what they claim to be private courses within their gated communities that are not open to the public, that are merely open to their residents. And then you have sort of public-private courses that are open to the outside and open to their residents. I talked to Ms. Woods about this, and maybe Sarah wants to opine on what our conversation was, but the short part of it was that how do you enforce the two issues? How do you do that? But I've heard a lot from folks that have private courses in their community that absolutely want nothing to do with shutting them down because they're not accepting folks from the outside. And at the end of the day, my preference would be that we leave this up to the homeowners associations to manage their own private businesses. I say their private business, the business of managing their homeowners association. If they want to close their course down, close their course down. If they want to leave it just to residents and owners or membership of their course, I'm okay with that still for the time being. And those that are very open to the public outside, those are the ones that should be shutting down the outside influence. That's the concern I've heard from everybody is literally that. It is the outside players coming in that they seem to be concerned with. The whole bar issue that was brought up this morning relative to folks going, that just goes right back to the social distancing thing. They should be enforcing that and not allowing large congregations of people to get together of over 10 people, and they certainly should be separated, but that's where I am on those issues.
Commissioner Heatherton.
I would just opine on the restroom. I do agree that if we're going to have the passive parks open, we're going to have to leave the restrooms open and maybe do some extra cleaning on those. Certainly, I think today we could shut down all of the other group-type facilities. And on the golf courses, last week I might have seen this a little bit differently, but we really don't have any enforcement power whether the private clubs are to invite member guests. I know Commissioner Campy said that, he talked to all the 7 in his district and they voluntarily agreed. And I've certainly talked to the courses in my district. I think, there's really only 1 or 2. They're doing a fine job, but some of them are abusing it. So how do you, put this one sort of situation on certain course without the others? So unfortunately, it comes down to what I said before. It's the bad apples that are going to ruin it for the whole bunch. And quite frankly, I think they pretty much have ruined it. And we're going to probably have to take some more proactive measures. Unfortunately, it's not something that I would desire to do. But again, common sense doesn't seem to be prevailing in this particular situation. That's just my opinion.
How about boat ramps?
Boat ramps, it seems like from the sheriff's comments last week that the weekdays were manageable and they were doing a good job enforcing the sandbars, which that seems to be the hot spot. The problem areas, sandbars and gathering in locations. It seemed like from the last report, the week was manageable, and then closing for the weekend seemed to be a good. So, if that's a manageable structure, I would say we try that. And if for some reason we see that it's not manageable, then the following week we could take additional measures.
I agree with that. Sarah.
I just wanted to, Mr. Chair, members of the board, to address the issue of golf courses. I think under the governor's clarification, you certainly have that ability. The comments this morning showed the unfortunate situation. What the speaker described is, in my opinion, a clear violation of the restaurant and bar closure order that we've been under for weeks now. That bars absolutely, even located within a country club, should not be providing free drinks in a spot and allow them to be consumed on premises, no matter where they are, behind gates or in, no bars out in the public are doing that. So to that end, I think we'll do our best, I know, as a county staff, to notify all of the private clubs that the rules apply for you. You've closed down your restaurant. That also applies to your bars. I think the challenge with the golf courses, to Commissioner Hetherington's point, is that you can have a private golf course that is technically members only, but I'm pretty familiar with them, and almost all of our private golf courses allow non-resident members, that is, members that don't live within the gates on which, in the gated community that is, and how that's enforced, I have no idea. I don't know that there's a restriction to Martin County residents with their outside members, so there's many golf courses that are deemed themselves private, but to Commissioner Hetherington's point and Commissioner Smith, that people can invite them in, other members can have member guests. So if the goal is to limit the spread of the COVID-19 virus, then the consideration is what measures do that. And that's what I think we're looking for direction from.
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification to what Ms. Woods just said. I know that the golf courses that I've spoken to, the private golf courses in my district, have not allowed their members to have guests. So your first point is still clear. Non-resident members is a fact. However, I think most of the private courses don't allow their members to bring outside guests.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah. Once again, our primary responsibility is public health and safety, and unfortunately, you can't enforce responsibility. So we're relying. If you allow exceptions, you're going to be relying upon people voluntarily following our rules, and I don't think you can do that. I think that it's necessary, unfortunately, to ban things or not. And I think that with the boat ramps, I think that we're just going to be, if you allow it on a temporary basis, I think you're going to be pulling the Band-Aid off again and again and again. And so I think it would be smarter just to say no more public boat ramps, and also no more golf play. It's taking away, as the speaker said last week, a civil liberty. Yeah, it is, and it's unfortunate. It's not forever, but it's in order to protect our residents. We have to take some measures that are unpopular, but I think that that's our role, is to protect the public.
So I was trying to keep it to give us some direction on what we can do internally with our parks and our open spaces, and then the golf course thing, but I epically failed at that. So, but what I'd like to do, if we could, is to give Ms. Krista some direct direction on what we're doing internally with our parks and our open spaces. And it sounds to me like we don't even agree on that. I mean, I'm to the point, if we're going to leave our bathrooms open, then we're going to close our parks, period. I mean, that is utterly ridiculous to think that we're going to leave our bathrooms open. That is the highest touch potential of anything that we got going on, other than maybe playgrounds, and expose our employees to having to clean those. You can't sit on the hood of your car and eat your sandwich at the causeway. I just can't help you there.
I can absolutely do that, and have. However,
we got to get past this.
Lost it. All that kind of sent me into the. Maybe that was the plan.
Yeah. No. Sorry.
A motion would be
Yeah.
great.
Could somebody give us a motion on specific to county internal, what we're doing with regard to our parks and open spaces?
I'll try if you want.
Okay.
I would move that for playgrounds, children's playgrounds, however you want to affirm that we close them immediately. That we do leave, for now, the restrooms open. That the activity sports, Harold, I think is how you said that, the pickleball, tennis, is that what you said? Competitive activity, basketball.
Potential contact sport, yes.
Basketball courts, those kinds of things, tennis, they be closed. And that our boat ramps remain open on, do you want to do them separate? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not going with
So
I'll
stop there with the parks portion.
I'll second that. And could we add that we would put up some signage for, I mean, certainly not all of them could be locked in other fields, but maybe some signage that denotes that they're closed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And the legal consequences, if you just put up a sign that says the the park is closed, I think you'd need to educate and inform inform our residents to the legal ramifications of walking past those signs and utilizing. But I think the motion needs to be broken down even
Further,
more defined, because I don't think you have support on some of those and not on others, so the motion gets.
Okay, I'll remove my motion, try again, that we close the children's
Second.
playgrounds.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, this is going to be long. That passed unanimously.
That we close pickleball courts.
Second.
Lump tennis courts into it.
No, no.
Oh,
God
okay.
forbid we should do any bundling here.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't think pickleball is a contact sport.
Mr. Chairman, that we close the tennis courts.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for closing tennis courts. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
That we close the basketball courts. That was another motion.
Second.
What was it?
Close the basketball courts.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Move that we leave the restrooms open.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to leave the restrooms restrooms open. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion fails miserably.
That we move that we close the boat ramps for the weekend, less licensed commercial fishermen, but only for Sanskrit and for boat ramp next to the sailing center in Jensen.
The Jensen ramp next to the North, what do we call it? I think North Jensen? I'm not sure.
Well,
I know which one
we
you're
have
talking.
3 of them up there, so the boat ramp that's on Indian River Drive next to
Right next to the sailing center.
sailing center.
Closed.
And yes, that the boat ramps are closed to the public for the weekends, with the exception of the 2 boat ramps, one being Sanskrit, the other being the boat ramp next to the sailing center on Indian River Drive in Jensen Beach, for licensed commercial fishermen, and that the other 5 days of the week remain open for everybody.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, motion carries 3-2. Commissioner Campy and Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Did I miss anything?
Well, we need to, okay. Is
Move
somebody,
to close the restrooms in our parks.
We did. Mine failed.
I thought
That
Their
failed.
motion to keep it open failed, 3-2.
yeah, so I make a motion that we
Oh, to
close.
close them.
Okay. Second.
okay, we have a motion and we have a second to close the restrooms and pavilions, maybe? Can we put the pavilions?
No, I disagree with the
Okay.
pavilions.
Okay, we're sticking with that. Anyway, we have a motion and a second. Were you about to say something?
Second for discussion.
Okay.
I think we haven't even mentioned it probably in the last hour. We're not just doing this because we're interested in doing this. We are in the midst of a global pandemic. I am not interested in restricting anybody of any of these things, but I think if you turn the TV on and you see what's happening in the world, in the country, in our state, in our region, that's why I'm making these very difficult decisions. We're staring down 83 residents today, 15 in the hospital. That's up 20 from yesterday. We have 51 fatalities in our immediate next-door neighbor county to the south. That's the reason I'm making these difficult decisions. I'm not interested in doing it, but we haven't even mentioned it. I don't want people to lose sight of why we're doing this.
Completely concur.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Nay.
Motion carries, passes. Commissioner
3-2.
Heatherington and Commissioner Smith dissenting.
Mr. Chair, in the interest of clarity, I just have a question about, we talked about pickleball and basketball. I didn't hear discussion about soccer or baseball, softball.
All of the athletic fields that require any kind of sport activity. I'll move that if you want. I'll move that any sporting activity at any of our parks be stopped.
Organized sports?
Yes,
or-
organized has
Yeah.
to be in
Well,
there.
you can't even say organized, because then you'll say somebody have pick up soccer and
Yeah.
20 people.
But if two people are kicking a soccer ball on an open field, that's not a soccer game.
How about more than two people?
Yeah, but that's the same thing you have with tennis with
Well,
two
then you have
people
to go
playing
back to the
singles.
social
Ed.
distancing.
Ed.
Okay.
It's the
We
same
need
thing
to-
you have with people playing pickleball, or the same thing you have.
I voted no on pickleball. I think we should leave pickleball as an option.
Okay. Did you make a motion?
I
If
did.
so, please repeat it.
I moved that we, until further notice, that we close all of the athletic fields to any organized or pickup game athletic sports.
Second it.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye.
Organized is, he added
Oh.
organized and pickup. So if it's a father and son throwing the ball back and forth on a baseball field, they're allowed to do that. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
I don't know how you're going to manage that, Ed.
I think we all understand what the vision, what an actual game of something looks like.
I would add that, again, we're all also under the state and county order of observing social distancing and a
Right.
limit of a gathering of, over 10 people and
That's the
following
criteria we
those
should be
rules.
using.
So
That's-
it would, I know the sheriff would be looking at it from that standpoint, of the intensity of the activity. I don't know that kicking a soccer ball back and forth or throwing a baseball back and forth is considered a sporting activity. It's not a game,
That's
it
why I
would be
like that
more
he
of an
said
outdoor.
organized and pickup. Okay.
So are we happy with the motion as stated? Okay.
Harold?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's old.
Okay. Ralph's about to have a heart attack, so
No,
we're
we
going to
didn't
have to
vote
wrap
yet.
this up here. What?
We didn't vote on that one.
I'm working.
I apologize.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
We need to take the break.
Now, unless we want to talk about pavilions, we need to take a break because Ralph is
We have
telling
closed
us.
captioning as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we're adjourned until, what? Not adjourned. We're taking a break until 11 a.m. Okay. We're back on. Sorry for the delay. We had a little technical difficulty, which Ralph fixed.
Harold?
Actually, I wanted to try to start with Sarah to try to...
I just want to know if we could break for 45 minutes so I could go home and use the restroom and then come back.
Go
After
before
you
you
eat
go.
on the hood of your car.
You should have gone before you got here.
I couldn't. We can't use our restrooms anymore. I got to,
Oh,
that's
God.
the practicalities out of it all.
Okay.
Clarification on the county closures too,
Depends.
the effective date. Are you,
What?
are you
Yeah.
closing immediately?
That's what they
Okay,
said, yeah.
Okay. You want a golf course?
I would like you to bring us up to speed on where golf courses are on today with regard to the governor's order for golf courses. With that order of being left open, or him directing, they are under also guidelines and regulations for social distancing and such. So if you could go through that list so we have a base of where we're at, so we know where we can go.
Yes, sir, I'm
That
happy
makes any
to.
sense.
So the governor's office, through a press release, opined that golf courses were deemed fell within the essential activities of the governor's order. However, he further clarified that, of course, the social distancing and CDC recommendations should also be complied with. And then I believe there was another during a press conference, I believe, there was further clarification that required not touching the flag, the rakes. I'm not a golfer, so I'm trying to remember what else. Wiping down the equipment and the carts, that no more than one person should be at a cart, and that at all times social distancing, which is being at least 6 feet apart, should be observed. My take would be any additional recommendations that we're seeing coming out of the CDC, so now that would also be wearing the cloth masks, may be applicable as well. But then again, just to reiterate, the governor then, in his frequently asked questions, has advised that local governments have an ability to place additional restrictions on that. To then also point out that the fact that golf is deemed an essential activity and can be further regulated. I also want to point out things like sunset happy hour or half-price drinks would not fall within the essential activities and would, by law, be regulated by the governor's directives, his emergency orders that deal with restaurants and alcoholic beverages and consumption of those and how they're supposed to be done on a takeout basis.
Okay, I do know that one of my golf clubs provided a letter of a long list of what they're doing, and they're trying to do the right thing. I believe George was using that to come up with some additional recommendations to us when we thought. Anyway, this has gone back and forth so many times, I kind of lost track.
Yes, sir, and I would like to say that it is within, again, because the governor's frequently asked questions talked about your ability to add, additional restrictions. There's other, and I'm not making a recommendation, just telling that you have the ability to look at things like distancing the number or limiting the number, anywhere from those type of limitations all the way, the number of players on a course, that type of thing. I'm not a golfer, so I don't, and I'm nor a scientist, so both of those would require that kind of information, if that at all limited the spread of COVID-19.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is that we understand that the governor has said this is an essential activity. We understand that those people doing that activity are under CDC guidelines that are not recommendations, are what they need to be doing. So what we need to do is figure out of that list, what in addition to that list we want to do. I think this is a better conversation for Thursday.
For who?
For Thursday, which is what Thursday's meeting is supposed to be talking about this. I would, yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
I think you shared with us just 2 minutes ago that the golf course that you're working with or put out a series of guidelines or something for their course. To their course.
Yes.
The golf course that's in my district, and I can't believe we're getting to the point where we're talking about our golf courses in our districts, because they're in all of our districts. I mean, meaning we're all county-wide. Anyway, they're doing all those things, and they have limited their players to their membership, but they're a very public, they're not a gated community, they're an open golf course that anybody could basically drive up to, and they're practicing all of the proper things they should be practicing. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to hold it until Thursday to talk more about it. I think what I also asked Sarah about last night, and you all probably did too, but you know, the interesting thing about this frequently asked questions thing is now we have a list of things that are frequently asked, but that's not an order. I mean, we have an order, and there's nothing in that order that said, okay, refer to the frequently asked questions page, because now that's the new order. I just think, I think it's a mess, and I think it's still very, very confusing as to what governs and who governs over the decision piece. So I'm more than happy to wait till Thursday. But
the reason I'm saying that is I know George was working on it at some point, and I think that needs to come back to us on Thursday with some lists of what they're obligated to and some potential staff recommendations on where we want to go from there. So if nobody disagrees, we'll move on, apparently. Yes, sir, go for it.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with moving the conversation to Thursday, which is, as Commissioner Smith rightfully said, our special meeting to discuss COVID-related issues, and this is obviously a COVID-19 related issue. However, I think if the decision on Thursday is that we can't reach sort of an agreement on how the golf courses should and would and will operate, that they should be prepared to then close the following day for Friday. I don't think if we come to an agreement that we can't reach this lofty goal. And the only reason I say that, if this was a week ago, I would have agreed with everything I'm hearing now. But, you know, watching certain courses, and the sheriff sent deputies, I don't know if they went to every single course, but I know they went to all the Palm City courses and met with the operators and asked, you know, what's going on and did those things. But we're all receiving these emails that, you know, most of these courses have people living along the fairways and the tees and the greens. So we're getting sort of real time. And I compliment nearly all of the golf courses that are doing a remarkable job of trying to work within the guidelines. They're protecting their own employees and their players, and hopefully their surrounding neighbors. Those are not the ones I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about, as Commissioner Hetherington said earlier, the folks that are completely, you know, not following those guidelines. We're seeing photographic proof from people that show gatherings at the tee boxes and gatherings at the greens and you know, way more rounds of golf than are necessary to have for a weekend. And we're asking all of these other our residents that play other sports other than golf, to basically pack it in. No tennis, no pickleball, no all these other issues. And some of them fall into essential, and I understand that. But we can discuss it on Thursday. My only concern is that come Friday, if we don't reach an accord on keeping them open, that they'll be prepared to step down in 1 day's notice. So I think that courses need to comprehend the fact that they might not be playing golf this weekend on their properties. Thank you.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, if some people's irresponsible or reckless behavior is putting our residents at risk, then I think we have to prohibit that irresponsible or reckless behavior. So I would prefer to be shutting down the golf courses today. I think that's the responsible thing to do, because Commissioner Campy, as you've said, people are behaving recklessly and irresponsibly. And so giving them another 2 days is probably not prudent. We probably need to I would prefer to make a decision today.
So I'm a little confused, if you would clarify. So he has made it, it's an essential activity. Does that, and we can restrict it further than the list. Does that mean completely shut it down?
My understanding is yes. Look, I am not happy with the way that this has been implemented. I've said that in the prior meeting. I find the governor's executive order to be challenging to interpret. I'm not alone. I know all 67 county attorneys are struggling with what to do. We had a conference call on Friday. There was a discussion about our executive committee approaching the governor's office for more clarification, but then the governor issued these frequently asked questions on his website and indicated that that was the direction that we had. So I think I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons, and if you all find, and I'm really speaking off the cuff here, but if you all find that we know there's a state of an emergency and there are public health risks posed with the continuing activity from people coming from hotspots, much as our governor has recommended or has recognized of people coming from other parts of the country that are hotspots, but some of our counties to the south that are hotspots, if those pose a health and safety risk, then based on that, under your broad emergency powers in this direction, that the additional restriction is the most extreme, which is we shut them down. I think you're within your rights at this point until I'm told opposite by the governor's office that you're within your rights to do that. You get your direction from what the governor has allowed for down south, which is that they've shut all the golf courses down there. In Monroe County, my understanding is all of the transient lodgings are shut down. I'm just analogizing to that because of their low population and their inability to take people from outside the county to provide essential services. So, that's what if the board's direction is to go that way, then staff would prepare an emergency order that builds the record that shows that that is the prudent thing that you all, as the Board of County Commissioners, believes is in the best interests of our health and safety.
So I don't hear any motions. So again, I think
I
things happen on a daily basis. We may have a little more clarity by Thursday. So my response is let's discuss it when we're...
And Mr. Chair, I'm happy to put my staff on it to research throughout the state of what other additional restrictions or what are some of the other counties doing to date, and I can bring you back that information. At this point, I'm not prepared to tell you what they're doing, but to see what others are doing. I can also come back on Thursday and tell you to that morning what Indian River and St. Lucie are doing, and so that you can make a well-reasoned decision.
I think that'd be great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Or should we make one today?
We don't have the information.
Well, if you're prepared for a motion, I would prefer to gather some more information and data, and again, we get clarity and even more cloudy day by day, but I think by Thursday we'll be forced into make a decision one way or the other.
Move to close the golf courses.
Motion fails by a second.
I just want to clarify, this is a very important issue for a lot of our people. We're sending messages today. That's what we're doing. And I think some of our earlier openings and closings, I get that there's 5 different sets of opinions up here, but I don't know if we've achieved our goal of sending a clear, concise message to our residents. So, but I do hear what our attorney is saying in regards to making these decisions appropriately. I think that waiting until Thursday, today's Tuesday, waiting until Thursday morning is prudent. I am sadly in favor of leaning on a full closure. I don't think that the regulations that we would recommend and suggest to certain operators will, either they won't or they can't abide by them. And so I don't disagree with what you're saying, Commissioner Hurd, but I think at this particular point, waiting till Thursday is probably the prudent thing to do, reminding our operators that they will not be, if it goes in that direction by Thursday, they will have a very quick closing.
Okay. With that said, I believe this issue is put to bed until Thursday. And we're going to move on to... Did I? No, I don't think so. Martin County Economic Development Agency update. George is not here, but I see...
Yes, he is. He's right here. He moved on you.
Oh, you're hard to miss. You're behind my screen there. I'm sorry. Yeah. He's just have a big personality. Yes.
Good afternoon, or good morning, Commissioners. George Stokas, Assistant County Administrator for Martin County. As you recall, at your last meeting, you had requested an update.
Would you get closer to your mic, please?
Oh,
Thanks.
sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. At your last, I believe it was either the special meeting or your regular meeting, you had asked for our economic partners to provide a report as to the economics of Martin County and where we're at currently. With us today is Ms. Joan Goodrich, the Executive Director of the Business Development Board, Mr. Ted Astolfi, the Executive Director, I believe, of the Economic Development Council, a gentleman from the SBDC and SBA, as well as we will have Brian Bauer via telephone from Career Resource. And with that, I'll step out of the way.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you, George. Your Business Development Board has been focused on several key activities. First, we've been doing information sharing through Martin County's new Biz Hub, which can be accessed at bdbmc.org. We're distributing 2 weekly e-blasts, one highlighting urgent updates and the other telling stories of triumph, shining a light on some of the innovations occurring within our economy, how businesses are protecting us, and how they're also helping our community in new ways. We're assisting businesses who need help, and generally we're seeing they need help with accessing supplier networks with their products and services, learning more about the ever-changing loan and access to capital programs. We're helping them interpret changing regulations and legislation. They're also seeking technical business assistance, and of course we're making those referrals to partners like the SBDC and the SBA. The business development team is generally touching about 24 businesses a day. Those are incoming calls and outgoing calls with our outbound call program, and we expect that to rise. We're also hearing from a few of our local employees from essential businesses who have concerns about the cleaning and disinfecting of their offices and workplaces, and we're going to be sharing some of that information with our small business owners. And some are even questioning why they're continuing to work on site when others are not, and so we're helping them through that too. We're hosting weekly calls with our biz team partners, and we're participating on weekly calls with our state and national partners to stay informed. Last week's local business team partner call resulted in several partners joining us and pledging to raise the amount and numbers of call-arounds that we're doing so we can keep a pulse on our local businesses and how they're adapting to COVID-19. We're also answering the calls to help our healthcare system and state partners to locally source products, such as masks, gowns, eye protection, face shields, wipes, and hand sanitizers. And speaking of hand sanitizers, we just love what our very own H2 Ocean and Eddie Kolos are doing, a local innovator and manufacturer here in Stuart who have increased production while lowering their prices to help businesses, nonprofits, and other improve their disinfecting procedures and practices through their hand sanitizers. As far as some of the initial data that we're seeing from our regional and state partners, 75 of our businesses have completed the statewide damage assessment survey. Those businesses are reporting nearly $50 million in anticipated lost revenue, with plans to lay off 440 people. Our unemployment numbers for week ending March 28th were 1,428. That's 3.8 times what they were the week before. And if we can get Brian Bauer on the phone from CareerSource, he'll talk about some of the new procedures that we now have in place to help our locals get access to reemployment assistance. What are our short terms in the coming weeks? We'll continue to get the word out to our businesses and companies that Martin County's Biz team, comprised of more than 32 local organizations, entities, and departments, including our Chambers of Commerce, Economic Council, regional and state partners, are here to help, assist, and even just listen. Our businesses need to know they're not alone, and we ask that you join us in sharing that message forward. The Martin County Biz team is here. We'll also ask our community to support local. We'll launch our Martin County Loves Small Business initiative, since after all, 95% of our businesses are small, employing less than 20. We'll also continue our conversations through the Biz team to consider what additional local response might be needed as this pandemic continues. And we'll convene a group to begin making plans to help local businesses and companies reopen when we get past this phase of COVID-19. Along with considering the impact on our economic and job bases, and we anticipate in some of our industry sectors that it's going to be dramatic, we will also want to think about how we may need to reposition and reuse some of our commercial real estate, what changes to placemaking and infrastructure may be needed, as some of our community and even the market may not want to return to previous ways as they try to protect their families and employees moving forward. The bottom line is the Business Development Board, we're here, we're committed to serving our community and businesses in ways that it needs us, and of course in partnership with you and the rest of the Biz team partners. At this time, I invite Tom Kindred, our director of our Small Business Development Center at Indian River State College, to give you insight into what his team is seeing and doing, and after which Ted Astolfi will complete our economic briefing with Brian Bauer.
Thank you, Joan. Tom Kindred, I serve as the Regional Director for the Florida Small Business Development Center at Indian River State College. After any disaster in the state of Florida, it is your Florida SBDC that serves as the primary point of contact for what is called the Florida Small Business Emergency Bridge Loan. This program is a pot of money set up by the state of Florida, activated by the governor, and it is as the name implies, it is a bridge. It is quick access to up to $50,000 for a small business, and it bridges that small business to something longer term, like an SBA EIDL, or as we have now, the PPP. So I want to just give you a couple of data points. You can imagine after Hurricane Irma, just to give you a reference point, we processed 15 loans, closed 36 of those loans, and put about $2.7 million in the accounts of small business owners after Irma. We have to date received 600 applications in our local office here around the Treasure Coast. We have processed 100 of those loans. We have closed about 50 of those loans, and right now we're at about $2.5 million worth of cash that is flowing or has flowed into the accounts of small business owners and operators. As we begin to address the remaining 500 loans, we're going to ramp up our operations. We are partnering with all of our EDOs, working very closely with Joan and her team in Martin County, working very closely with Pete in St. Lucie County, and Helene up in Indian River County, and Megan in Okeechobee County. We are opening a call center within the next 48 hours on our Pruitt campus in St. Lucie West. We're bringing in 10 folks to man the phones and computers. We will be reaching out to those 500 applicants, making sure that we have all the proper paperwork, and we will begin the process of working on moving those 500 through the process and getting them their access to their emergency bridge loans. One of the bottlenecks in this process is banking committee meetings. We have to get approved through a local banking committee. We normally operate with one. We are actually now in the process of establishing 2 additional banking committees. Joan will serve on the Martin County Banking Committee, so we will, again, kind of remove that bottleneck to quickly process these remaining 450 to 500 loans. Again, the real process here is to try to use this EBL, emergency bridge loan, to allow that small business owner to bridge themselves to the longer term loans, which again, we are beginning to hear some positive news from the EIBL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. A number of our clients are now being able to get those applications uploaded with support material, and they're getting account numbers with the SBA. So we're actually seeing some movement with the SBA loans also. That is where we are at the Florida SBDC. We are on the job in our office, and we are processing EBL applications. Any questions for me?
Commissioner Smith.
I do have a couple.
Yes, sir.
So I've talked to a couple of small businesses in our community, and so the PPP thing is not working yet, as we understand it.
Well, the PPP program requires the business actually to deal with a bank. They're going to use the 7A loan process, the SBA 7A. So you do have to go through a bank to get that loan. But I did hear yesterday, got a call from a client, said they had a meeting with SunTrust. It was very easy, about 4-page application. SunTrust allowed the client to take photographs on his phone of the documents and uploaded the application.
Okay. So that's not uniform throughout the banking system, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not.
Additionally, people have been warned that with the PPP, your bridge loan or someone else's bridge loan, that they're in conflict with each other, that if you apply for one, don't apply for the other, because they're piling up and they've been told not to do that. And so the other thing was that apparently on Friday, people were told that the PPP process, which is the Small Business Administration form, you said the 7A form, correct?
Right.
Was people had filled them out and they have submitted them, but then they were told to rip them up and a new form was coming today or yesterday. And so we have a community that is completely sort of on their edge. And the information we're getting is really bad.
Well, and unfortunately, I wish I had answers for you, Commissioner, but I am not with the SBA.
I understand. I get that. But also, too, just one
right,
little note.
Sure.
It was also told to me by Senator Rubio on his conference call a week ago that even though they were using the SBA 7A form, had nothing to do with the SBA, that it was going to be run by the federal banking something system.
Treasury Department.
Treasury, thank you. And so I think what's also confusing people is people are assuming it's the SBA, or it's now being treated like it was the SBA, because before, last week, it was merely you needed your 2019, your 2018 tax return to prove that you were an employer, that you were a legitimate business, and that was about it. Now it's turning into you've got to have your accountant on the phone to supply all the information. And now what's happening is a lot of accountants have closed.
Right. You know, again, to your point, there is an awful lot of confusion out there with the EIDL and the PPP. I think I can answer one of your questions. The whole point of the emergency bridge loan is, like I said, hence the word bridge. Our loan, it works in collaboration and partnership with the SBA loans. Our loan is a bridge to something longer term. So you absolutely can fill out the state's emergency bridge loan and continue to pursue SBA loans. The point of getting the SBA EIDL is you take a portion of those funds that you receive and you pay back the emergency bridge loan. So those two work together. The other questions, again, all I can tell you is what we're hearing in the marketplace. I have spoken to numerous bankers. We spoke to them over the last weekend in preparation for this PPP, knowing that it was going to, get a lot of volume and a lot of attention. Banks are normally telling us now that they're going to prioritize those that have an account with the bank on that 7A PPP, but that's really the only restriction I have heard. And we are getting out some information. We work with a number of organizations that are marketplaces for loans. So we're also advising our clients to work with some of those marketplaces. If you don't have a relationship with a 7A lender, then you can use the marketplace and they will help you get that loan. So the bottom line is simply this: if you've got those kind of questions coming from constituents, call us.
So who is the best person or persons, maybe it's you, to explain
Probably not, but
what the PPP process is, because you can't get a straight answer.
And I think that's just the nature of where we are. I mean, leaving for work this morning, I was hearing the news talking about the confusion out there in the marketplace and reference to Bank of America. And so I think there is confusion, but I think each day it's getting clearer. And as I told you, I got a call yesterday from a client and said, Tom, I wanted to call to let you know this is the process that I went through on the PPP, and I did it with SunTrust, and it's uploaded. So I think things are clearing up each and every day a little bit, but absolutely, you can call us. We are very engaged with the SBA South Florida District Office. I just interviewed Victoria Guerrero on Thursday evening last week and had a very detailed conversation with her about the PPP and the EIDL, and that is published on our podcast, Small Biz Florida. So there is an interview. She's on the record on that podcast talking about those two loans.
So with what you just said, because again, I'm going off of what the senator said, and he was ridiculously clear in his comments.
Right.
It had nothing to do with the SBA. It was merely their form that they were using, and that it was to be incredibly simple in terms of how you filled it out, because we had millions of companies, small businesses that would be applying.
Right.
And now they've turned it into a three-ring circus.
Well, and again,
and I'm sorry.
Yep.
And if it is now the SBA that's handling it, I think we need to find out if that's so or not, because as you said earlier, the process goes through the banks.
Right. On the PPP.
On the PPP.
Right.
Not the SBA.
Correct.
It's only their form.
You know, I can't answer that question, but all I know is that our district director, Victoria Guerrero, certainly seems to be in charge of the PPP. She talked an awful lot about it Thursday evening. So, and all we're told is that they're going, with that particular loan, they're going through banks on the 7A. Now, you could absolutely, and I'm sure, Senator Rubio is correct, they could be using the Treasury Department to actually work that on the back end. But what we're being told is that 7A, it's a 7A SBA loan for the PPP. And the EIDL, you apply directly on the SBA.gov site for the EIDL.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Yes, sir?
Any other questions?
Okay.
It sure seems like this is an issue that we need to keep being updated and maybe get some clarity from the banking industry that is in charge of the PPP.
And I'm jumping on before Ted comes up. So again, I was on a call with our state partners, the Florida Bankers Association. Friday was very difficult for the PPP. They've worked out some of these issues, is what we heard from the Florida Bankers Association, and we will make sure all commissioners receive the latest information that we're getting from our banks, which some of them have been developing their own applications, so that's where that standardization is now being handled a little differently, as it's the best of my understanding. But then we'll be posting all of that on the Biz Hub for you all to point any constituents. And I just, ask, please, if you're talking to our small businesses here in Martin County and they need some additional assistance, please send them over to the Business Development Board so we can ensure that we walk through some of these processes with them in conjunction with our subject matter experts, with partners, but that we can continue that follow-up with them to make sure that they get what they need. Ted?
Thanks. I'm going to keep this on if you can hear me. Just so you know, I have 3 80-year-old plus family members. One is completely immune compromised, And so I'm taking every precaution I can in these public settings. My name is Ted Astolfi. As you know, I'm CEO of the Economic Council of Martin County. And I want to start off by thanking all of you for keeping Martin County government and thereby the business community actually open by conducting business. And I know this isn't a COVID update day and it's a day to conduct business, but I really thank you for getting the economic update today. I think it's important for you to hear some of these issues and what's going on, to hear the statistics from Joan on unemployment rates, and the update from Tom Kindred on what's going on, and being able to ask questions I think is very important for our community. As you heard today, there's a lot being done for businesses to update and keep them informed of the assistance available. I know, as we heard just now about the PPP, at times we get frustrated by the speed of services or some of the failures we've seen on the online systems that are broken due to the overwhelming demand. And I just ask for understanding. As you know, no one was staffed up or set up for these unprecedented times, neither business nor government. And if they were, taxpayers would probably be rioting in the streets because we were overstaffed and over-prepared. But there are substantial changes and upgrades, and they take a little bit of time, but they're getting there. Every day there's new improvements. It's just a brutal fact we have to face. It's going to take a little bit of time to get these kinks worked out in the face of what's going on. But the good news is that you heard is things are improving, and they're improving pretty rapidly. One example is the unemployment system. I know early on the system crashed because they were totally overwhelmed by unemployment compensation requests. But I have on the phone with me Brian Bauer, who's the CEO of CareerSource, and he couldn't be here. He's extremely busy, as you might imagine. But I did think it was important to hear from him, so I'm going to put him on speakerphone. Brian, you there? Brian?
Yes.
Yep. Can you go ahead?
Good morning, everybody. And I apologize for not being there in person. I had 2 other calls this morning, but I'm happy to answer or provide a little bit of information as what I can with regards to the status of the Department of Economic Opportunity and the Connect system, which we all know is the reemployment system for filing unemployment claims. Just a few statistics. I think you were provided that last time with regard to Martin County and the actual number of claims that have been processed to date. Martin County, the week ending March 14th, had 25. Week ending March 21st had 385. And March 28th had 1,428. Now, those are only filed, so exponentially probably multiply that by 4 or 5. And that's probably the total number of people now that we're trying to access the system. As Ted mentioned, the system is just being over-inundated. The governor did execute an executive order last Thursday, number 2093, I believe, where they have basically all hands on deck, and that includes the CareerSource Florida network. So what the local boards are doing to assist the Department of Economic Opportunity with the reemployment situation is that we are offering paper applications as an option to claimants. What we mean by paper application is you can download it from the DEO site, you can fill it out, complete it. It is a pre-fillable form, or you can go to any one of our career centers in the 3 counties. But Martin County would be on our career center in Stewart on Central Parkway, and pick up an online application, which will be in a bin at the door outside. They can complete that application at home and put that application in the mail to the predefined address and send it up to Tallahassee. Other than that, we are continuing to work on with DEO on other options available to us to expedite the claim process as far as submitting a claim, not through the system, but to get actual hand claims or paper claims to the state, other than just, I will call snail mail, but we're still in conversations about that and trying to work with the department to see what other means we can try to be a little bit more efficient. I will say that we are here to help as best we can. We have been given the ability to do some of the Connect functions that people are running into, such as pin reset. That seems to be a major glitch that's going on when somebody is in the system. I have repurposed 6 staff that are specific to that function 2 of them have been trained by DEO and 4 are awaiting training this week. So we will have, hopefully by the end of this week, the ability to assist with some of those questions and concerns. And these staff also will have the ability to go into Connect. We can get in the process and take a look at the status of a claim. I can't file a claim, I can't approve a claim, but we can look at the status of an individual's claim, see what might be holding it up, what is missing, or where they are in the actual process of the claim. And they can reach us at our toll-free number. That's 1-866-482-4473. And we put option 1 as a reemployment question hotline. So that's the number. They're more than welcome also to go off to our website, firstsourcec.com, and go to the COVID portal page, and we have the reemployment assistance button as well. My ask for the county would be in consideration of other areas that are meeting individuals that are unemployed or have been laid off, such as maybe places with food stations or free food stations, to these applications out, just not at our centers. The quicker we get them out to the community in more places, the quicker somebody can have the option of getting their claim application completed and mailed in until the system is fully up to speed and functioning. I will say the governor has put in 72 new servers. They are working on the technology hardware side. I have heard it is getting a little bit better in the last couple of days, but we'll continue to monitor that and see how that goes. But again, my ask would be is if we all have places that we could add these applications and make them available to our residents, we would greatly appreciate that. So I'm happy to entertain any questions at this time.
Any questions? I got to say, I have a little bit of tone deafness, and I did not understand a lot of that.
Okay. Brian, I'll ask you to send me those notes electronically so we can share them with the commission and post them up on the website.
Very good. I actually sent a press release out. They should have it. The county commissioners should get it. Our consortium member, Commissioner Smith, should have got the press release, but I'll be happy to pass that along as well.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Stay safe.
So I apologize for having to do that on the phone, but that's the best we could do today. But as you heard, there's a lot going on. There's a lot changing. The one ask I heard at the end was at the food stations where we're giving out free food to people, that may be a population that's underserved and doesn't have the electronic means to download unemployment forms. And if we had some of those paper unemployment forms there at those locations, that might be helpful if people need them. That might be a good place to get them. That was the ask I heard at the end, Commissioner. So, like I said, it's great to hear everything that's going on. I have to tell you that back in the hurricanes of '04, I was at the Business Development Board. They're the lead on this. They do disaster recovery. Thank goodness I'm not there today. I've had to entertain, and I shouldn't say entertain, I've had to host a President of the United States here in Martin County post-hurricane. I had to host several meetings with the governor. I flew around in the sheriff's helicopter with the Secretary of Labor after the hurricanes. So I understand what it takes at the Business Development Board to do this job, and it's extraordinary work, and I really appreciate the leadership and what's going on there in conjunction with the county staff. The Economic Council has a large number of those essential businesses. Our members are those banks and accountants and lawyers and IT companies and utilities and others that are actively working to support the residents and businesses and the rest of our community. Companies like Waste Management are right-sizing their operations as commercial waste goes down and residential goes up. As people are staying at home, they've got to right-size those systems. FPL is not disconnecting anybody's power. In fact, they've announced a 25% rate reduction this month in support of this. And, whether it's ITS or C&W Technologies or others that are now offering 30 days of free teleconferencing services so people can communicate as they work from home. Those are all things that are helping us keep our economy moving as best we can. And speaking of the communications piece, I just want to commend you as a board, Taryn, Don, George, your entire communications team for keeping us informed. I receive email updates every day from the county. I also receive the Martin alerts, the 888-777 alerts. So sometimes I get 2 communications a day. If you do that, and if you continue to go to the Business Development Board of Martin County's website, BDBMC, and the Biz Hub site, go there daily. That's updated on a regular basis. If you sign up for those two communications and you go to the BDBMC's Biz Hub site, you're going to be informed of what's going on as best as we know at the time. I just want to kind of close by saying thank you again. You're keeping government and businesses going. You're communicating well. You're doing the right things. And I know it's a trying time, but we're all trying to move together and stay together to keep our business moving. And I really appreciate you getting the economic update today. It was one of those things we weren't hearing, and yet it's an important component of our community, so thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any additional questions?
Just a brief comment.
Okay.
I think today was great because it was more of a economic options overview. I think the important takeaway, even when we were listening to Brian on the phone, it was difficult to hear some of that. I think everyone's business situation is very unique, and I think the advantage to the BDB and the SBDC is that any business, I mean, especially with the SBDC, the company that I work for, which is a small company, we've utilized their services in non-emergency times. They are experts in import and export, education and advice. So I've been sharing with people that have contacted me directly because, although I think people expect us to be experts in every category, we're not, but what I do believe is our responsibility and our role that we excel at is to steer people in the right direction. And so if you are listening to this meeting, which means you're interested in what's happening in our community, reach out to the BDB, let them know your specific circumstances, and they will be able to direct you where you need to go. There is a tremendous amount of money and financial options available to residents and businesses like never before in our history. So don't just think that your first option or one of your options might be that you would have to close. Reach out and get these opportunities so that you can be positioned for when this does end, which it will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, I was going to move, because Mr. Raines is here, I was going to move that up, but David Arthur is not here.
Who?
Oh, he's right outside.
No, they're in the green room, Mr. Chair.
He's in the green room. Okay. Can we do that in?
David Arthur to the front, David Arthur.
Yeah.
He'll be running down here.
Mr. Chair, I can begin the process while Mr.
That's
Arthur's coming down.
DEPT 3.
Approval of lease with Precision Jet LLC for parcels A and B at the Martin County Airport, Witham Field. Mr. Stokes.
I can begin the agenda item until Mr. Arthur gets here. So this is a request, oh, you already said that, the request for consideration of a lease of parcels A and B at the Martin County Airport by Precision Jet LLC. Under the agenda item, the background, the county and Precision Jet drafted the lease. The parties are Martin County and Precision Jet. The purpose of the lease is to allow Precision Jet to lease parcels A and B at the Martin County Airport, also known as Witham Field. It's a new lease. Its duration is 30 years with no renewal option. The benefits to the county is that the county will receive monthly rent and improvements. Let me get into it. Oh, David, if you want to begin. George, can he sit there? If you want to go ahead and go through the agenda item, I just did it. I didn't know you were here.
Bring some wipies, will you?
I wiped it down.
You wiped it down.
David, I'm at right where you're turned at the beginning of page 2 of the agenda item.
Okay.
If
You have to pull the mic up to there.
pull the
Good.
mic real close.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
David Arthur, Senior Assistant County Attorney. This agenda item concerns a proposed lease of parcels A and B at Martin County Airport, Witham Field, to Precision Jet Center LLC. Parcels A and B are located adjacent to the entrance to the taxiway. Parcel A contains a hangar known as Hangar 3, which was built in the 1950s, and Parcel B is vacant land adjacent to the airport's U.S. Customs facility. The owners and operators of Precision Jet, through its affiliate, Jet Team International, Inc., have been providing aviation maintenance and repair services at the airport since 1999. From the parcel between parcels A and B that is currently subleased from county's tenant Triumph Aerostructures LLC. County made a request for proposal for the lease of Parcel A and Parcel B, and Precision Jet was awarded the bids for both. Since the award, County and Precision Jet have negotiated the lease that is the subject of this agenda item. If approved, Precision Jet will pay County rent at 30 cents a square foot for both Parcels A and B, such that the annual rent for Parcel A would be $36,200, and the annual rent for Parcel B would be $26,660, for a combined annual rent of $62,860, with annual adjustments based upon the Consumer Price Index. In addition to rent, Precision Jet has agreed to develop Parcels A and B within 5 years after the effective date of the lease pursuant to a proposed improvement plan attached to the lease as Exhibit C. Specifically, as to Parcel A, Precision Jet has the option to modernize Hangar Number 3 to meet Federal Aviation, Florida Department of Transportation, and Martin County Building Code requirements to operate a repair station, and as to Parcel B, construct a 10,000 square foot hangar for Precision Jet's operations. The proposed improvements will cost approximately $4 million. With regard to Parcel A, Precision Jet may deduct demolition costs from the monthly rent up to a cap of $150,000, subject to the county's approval after reviewing the requisite backup documentation. Precision Jet would not be entitled to deduct from monthly rent any demolition costs exceeding the cap. Prior to the commencement of construction or refurbishment of any facilities on Parcels A and B, Precision Jet would be required to submit to the county administrator for the county's written approval a site plan, survey, and complete plans and specifications of the contemplated construction. A condition precedent to county's approval of the plans and specifications is the review by the county's Growth Management Department, Building Department, and any other applicable county agency, as well as any other governmental agency having jurisdiction, if any. All construction will be compliant with federal, state, and local laws, including, but not limited to, the county's airport minimum standards. The county may refuse to grant approval if, in county's opinion, the proposed facilities as shown on such plans and specifications will fail to meet the criteria set forth in the lease. All structures permanently affixed to the premises, including but not limited to hangars, shall become county's property upon construction or installation and shall be surrendered with and remain on the premises upon the expiration or termination of the lease. Thank you.
The recommended action for the board is that our recommendation is that you approve the lease with Precision Jet and authorize its chairman to execute all documents necessary to complete this transactions. And we're open for any questions.
Commissioner Smith.
I would move staff's recommended action.
Commissioner Heatherton.
In an abundance of caution, because this matter involves family members, I'll be abstaining from the vote, and I've filed my conflict Form 8B with the clerk.
Any other discussion? Do we have public comment?
Is there a second?
There's no second. Okay. So we have a motion and a second, but we also have public comment. Mr. Ted Astolfi.
How do we know this is actually Ted Astolfi?
We don't. Yeah.
I'm here speaking on behalf of myself, not the Economic Council, because the Economic Council doesn't support specific projects like this. However, I was at the Business Development Board and I recruited Precision Jet to Martin County, 20 years ago, Jet? 1999. They have been an excellent tenant at the airport. They've done everything that they said they would do. They've continued to expand and hire people. They have extremely good wages. They provide a valuable service. And I don't want to oversell this, but I just want to stand up here and say personally how proud I am of bringing them here and to see them now expanding, especially at such a critical time in our economy for this to be coming forward. So thank you, and I appreciate the support on this one.
Thank you. Any additional comment? Okay, moving on, we have a motion and a second.
Are they making any presentation?
Apparently not, because Mr. Raines didn't get up. Are you have anything to say?
No.
Okay.
No. I just want to, I'm going to thank staff for working so hard with us and getting this accomplished. It wasn't easy, but we all worked together and did get it done. And they are a long-term tenant at the airport and have done a great job in it. And Mr. Hetherington and I are here to answer any questions you might have, but I did want to thank staff for their work.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Once again, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes 4 to an abstain. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
It's 12:03. Anybody interested in powering through this?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because
And
I really
staff
don't
is
want to
here.
drive all the way back to Hope Sound and come back.
No, sir.
On the longest commute.
Yeah, Jennifer?
Okay, office management budget items which require board approval. Mrs. Jennifer Manning, sorry.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Manning, Budget Director. First, I have 3 items on the agenda. The first item is permission to apply for the Florida Inland Navigation. Can you hear? Permission to apply to the Florida Inland Navigation District for a boat ramp renovation at Sanspritz. The grant amount is $100,000, and it requires a $100,000 match, which is in FY20 budget. Second item is also permission to apply for the COVID-19 CARES Act, and we're trying to apply for $62 million. And this is to help with all, the losses due to the COVID virus. I know that Chloe is going to give a little presentation at the end of this, and I'll leave it till the end. Item number 3 is permission to accept the local planning agency grant for resurfacing of County Road 609. It's for $3,451,435. It requires a match and any other cost that is not covered by FDOT. And that is the end of my presentation. And I would like to turn over the rest of George and Chloe to talk about the COVID CARES Act. Thank you.
Good afternoon, or good afternoon, Chair George Stokas. Just as we begin, while Chloe comes up here, we're kind of asking for a little bit of a different request for...
You need to speak more into the microphone, sir.
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
What we're trying to do with the CARES Act is a little bit different than we've done in the previous. We are looking for permission to apply for all stimulus that's coming through the government, the federal government at this time. It's a changing target almost on a day-to-day basis. And so what we're trying to do is set ourselves up with your permission to apply for all these grants as they become available on a day-to-day. And yes, I did just knock down the sanitize thing. Yeah. And with that, if Chloe would like to start her presentation, just briefly demonstrate what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chloe, CU Perger, your legislative coordinator, and I wanted to take some time to quickly go over Phase 3 of the CARES Act and how it relates to local governments, because this is a federal stimulus in part for local governments. So the way it works, and I tried to make it as visual as possible because there's a lot of numbers and they're ginormous. So you have $139 billion will be shared among 50 states proportionally based on population. So On one end, you'll have $150 billion that goes specifically to state, local, and tribal governments that have more than 500,000 residents. So for the rest of us who are smaller with 161,000, Martin County, so Florida proportions out to about $8.33 billion. And then that will get divvied down into the legislative and executive branch. And then from there, we'll have to work with our state partners in order to ascertain the funds that we need for our recovery.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So out of the 150 billion, does the 8.3 billion come out of the 150 billion, or is that a separate?
No, I believe it's a separate silo. So for the entire country, and I could have probably made that a little bit better visually, but for the entire country, you have 150 billion pot divvied out for 500,000 or more.
Or more.
So a city with 500,000 will come from that, and they'll proportion it accordingly. For the rest of us, we'll have to work for the 8.33 billion.
So all of the rest of us compete for the 8.33.
So compete is a strong word, and I'm gonna specify what we know so far.
Vie for.
What?
We would vie for.
Vie is a good option, but I'll get to that to break it down, and then maybe we can address that.
That's the whole rest of the country.
The whole rest of the country.
Meaning anybody not in the 500,000 or above category, all of the rest of us will vie for that 8.
We will need to work with our state legislature and executive branch, so our agencies, in order to communicate our need. So if you have a local entity that has more than 500,000 residents, they will be given direct aid. So the city or the county will be given that amount specifically to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just curious about the 8.3 billion.
There's more. But wait, there's more. So in addition to that 8.3, across the United States, you have 270 billion that will go to existing programs. And so this is really wordy, but it shows how some of that will be divvied out. And so we'll realize some of that as well. So we'll need to keep tabs on all of this funding that's circulating. And then we received a memo from the Florida Senate President. So there were two parts to the memo. The first part was that he reassured that the $2 billion in reserves that the Florida State Legislature has will be sufficient to get us through this fiscal year. So that's what we were all kind of on pins and needles with, because the legislative session just finished in mid-March, and so we were wondering, is that funding going to get appropriated accordingly? And so from this memo, we can say yes, and we're just waiting for the governor to sign that. There may be a few line item vetoes, but for the most part, they reassured that for this fiscal year, that $2 billion will be sufficient in order to supplement it. And then the second portion is, it goes down to the logistics, because what the federal government will do is it'll give the state that funding. However, most of the agencies fall under the executive branch, which is your governor and your lieutenant governor. The legislature has to give permission, so they have to appropriate money. So that will call for a special session. They don't know when that will be held. They're waiting to see when the appropriate time will be for it. They're guessing June, July. And so what will happen is they will reconvene back in Tallahassee, and they will have to work through those numbers. And so that's where we step in on a lobby and a grant effort. So my assumption will be that specific entities that have specific amounts based on caseload, based on what we actually realized through the pandemic, that will be considered. But then I imagine each of the agencies will also have a certain pot of money that we will need to advocate for ourselves for. And then next part, just like we're going through, I mean, this is unprecedented times, so we're going week by week, trying to project as much as we can. The federal government is. So what we're realizing from that $2 trillion, and then however much goes to local entities, that was phase 3. They're now working on phase 4. And so you know that what we know so far from phase 4 is that Congress has definitely done a lot of advocacy for local entities to receive direct aid. So that might be a portion that we might see in the phase 4 of the stimulus. And then they're also trying to work on a potential infrastructure framework. So as it listed, it could include funding for transit, water, airports, broadband infrastructure. So there's more to come with all of the federal stimulus, and staff is tracking it and staff is working with all of our team to make sure that we're ready to go when all this money gets divvied out. But even the state is still unsure on how that money is going to be distributed. They got a little bit of guidance from the U.S. Treasury at the federal level, and we're still waiting to see how it works out organizationally. Any questions?
Any questions? Nope. Yes, that was.
Nice job.
Can I, don't.
It's a nice job.
Oh, I thought you said please don't.
Does that work?
It might. Chloe. Yes. The 8.3 billion, is that to the state of Florida?
Yes.
So we will be vying for things that will fall under that category of funding outside of the 500,000 population basis.
Yes, but I also think, I'm assuming a lot of the agencies have already also expended a lot of funding, so they'll be reaching out in that pot as well, and then it'll trickle down. So every element of what we've been spending on the pandemic so far.
So, and it's just a guess, Chloe. Is it your expectation or a guess that this will be much more agency-driven, or will it be a local government ask directly for those funds, or both?
So that's all speculative, so it's kind of hard to guess. I think it's going to be agency-driven, just because you see how they already distribute funding in the budget. A lot of it is often agency-driven. So to have very specific line items with this, I think would be very tricky. So the memo from the Senate President, it didn't get into specifics like that. It just did. It was the first statement that said we will need to go to special session in order to figure this out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. George, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay, back to the business at hand.
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Is there a second? Yes. Okay. We have a motioner by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Department.
Let us know when you get that check for $62 million.
Yes, please. Department 2, contracts that meet the threshold for the board to approve. Christy Brotherton. I got it. Yeah.
Thank you, Donna.
Hello, Christy Brotherton, Purchasing Manager. I only have one contract for approval today, and that is our continuing services fencing contract. This is a 3-year term contract with 2 optional 1-year renewals and a maximum not to exceed value of $1 million. Staff recommends dual award to A Great Fence as well as Daniel's Fence. And that concludes this item.
Move approval.
Any questions for staff?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Brings us to our last item, quasi-judicial. Locks Estate plat. Matt, what's your last name?
Staley.
Staley. Okay, so this is a quasi-judicial item. Anybody that is going to give testimony, please stand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Okay, has Commissioner Smith, have you had any quasi?
I don't believe I did, but if I did, they're filed.
Commissioner Heatherington?
I don't believe so. If any, they've been filed.
I don't believe I have any, but if they have, they've been filed. Commissioner Campy?
I have none. I have none.
Okay. That leaves us to notices and turning in the agenda item in work history. Is that?
Yes, a copy of the work history and agenda item has been provided.
Okay. And are there interveners? No. Did I miss anything? Really? Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, say it again?
Sir, what was the answer on the notice? Not required. Thank you.
Not yet.
All right.
All right. As you said, this is a request by Stewart Isle LLC for approval of a plat consistent with the approved final site plan of a residential subdivision consisting of 6 lots on 4.68 acres located on the west side of Southwest Locks Road on the southwest corner of the intersection of Southwest Locks Road and Southwest Hackman Terrace in Martin County. The project consists of 6 single-family lots with supporting infrastructure conforming to the development standards of the current RE1-A zoning district. Access will be provided via Southwest Locks Road, and water and wastewater services will be provided via Martin County Utilities. The Locks Estates residential subdivision was approved on June 6, 2017 via development order as recorded in public records of Martin County, beginning on book 2948, page 2223. The plat of this development must be consistent with the approved final site plan and with the requirements of Division 21, Article 4, Land Development Regulations. The local planning agency was not required to hear this plat application, and final action on this application is required by the Board of County Commissioners in a public meeting. So with that, staff recommends move that the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all attachments, including the staff report for the record as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the plat for Locks Estates, including the contract for construction of required improvements and infrastructure. With that said, that concludes my presentation.
Any questions for staff? Does the applicant have a presentation, or is the applicant here? Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
If there's no public comment, I would move staff's recommendation.
I didn't ask for public comment. Do we have any public comment? None? We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Hetherington. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And before they exit, I'd like to again congratulate Mr. Schilling on
You
his.
stole my, you
Oh,
took
I'm
that
sorry.
right out of my head. If, Mr. Chair, before Mr. Schilling were to depart, may he come to the microphone, please, so we can really give him.
Yes, absolutely.
So in the old days, when a former commissioner used to be here, he used to tell him, forgive all the things that are going to happen to you as a result of being in that
Can't
position.
hear a word you're saying.
Yeah.
I just wanted, this morning in our consent agenda, we had approved the filling of very large shoes. We've recently had a change in our management where Miss Nikki Van Vano, after a very illustrious career as the Director of Growth Management, has rightfully earned her opportunity to retire, leaving very large shoes to fill, but luckily in Martin County we have strong bench strength. And so this morning, we voted unanimously to approve Mr. Paul Schilling to become our new Director of the Growth Management Department, and I don't think we could have made a better choice. He is reasoned, he is educated.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
He is reasoned, he is patient, he is fair, he's reasonable, and he has a long record here with Martin County, and it's just another example of how well taken care of our residents will be, and so I wish you nothing but success and congratulations.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it, Commissioners. As always, I appreciate your support. I have a great team. I have very large shoes to fill, if you will. Ms. Van Vano has been a staple in this community for decades. She will be missed. She will still be in the community. So I anticipate I will be reaching out to her from time to time for advice and so forth and so on. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thank you for putting me on the spot.
Wait a minute. Commissioner Smith,
you know, there is another side of this. It would be more like, from what Ed said, what were you thinking?
Good point.
But congratulations.
Absolutely, congratulations. Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, I don't have any speaker forms for a 505 comment, so Commissioner comments, Commissioner Smith.
I did ask at our previous commission meeting last week, and maybe we weren't able to find somebody, and I thought we were actually going to maybe do that with our economic development update today. Can we not find an expert on this PPP issue that can speak specifically to what is going to be required, what is going to be needed, and so on, so that our public, everybody can kind of hear from us?
There was a person mentioned, which I'm sure is dealing with a family loss right now, but that would be very helpful.
Mr. Chair, we've reached out through the BDB so that this board and body doesn't just come off as endorsing a certain bank. And at the last meeting, it was mentioned by this board that there were numerous banks available to do that. So I will speak with Ms. Goodrich to see if she can do more of a specific presentation to that. Unfortunately, the U.S. federal government has ordered its employees to work from home. So SBA, some of these other employees, when we reach out to them, like Federal Reserve in Miami, they are under specific orders not to come out. So we've been struggling with that. I also know we had asked for an IRS person. They're not coming out.
So does our local banking industry have some association or something that they could?
We've asked, and we'll work with them. I think today there's a lot more information than there was last week, so I will ask Ms. Goodrich to show up at the next, possibly Thursday, if not the next one, to provide that information.
Okay.
Harold, can I be a little bit clearer, with all due respect?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the Hudsons are dealing with the loss of a family member, and that may not be appropriate, obviously. But I will tell you, whether it was Denny or any other person in the banking industry that's actually responsible for doing this, he was abundantly clear as to what was needed and what was being asked for. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's Denny or we want to get 3 bank presidents from Martin County. It's not that I don't believe Joan can't interpret what they say to her. I want to hear it from the horse's mouths, if you will, of the people that are actually involved in doing this, so we can get it as clear as possible from, that's what I thought I asked for a week and a half ago, and now we've had 2 meetings since then, and we still haven't delivered that. And so I don't know why, but this is something that is going to make a major difference in our small businesses' lives in Martin County. If there was one thing we need to deliver right now, it's so that they understand how to maneuver and manage their way through this thing. If we do nothing else as a county commission on this front, it is to get somebody in here that's actually doing it and knows exactly what is required, what's needed, what is being asked for. I'm baffled on this one. But
Well, the reason for that, Commissioners, is in my conversations, because you did have another commissioner raise the issue that they didn't want to just have that bank represented. So that's why we went back to the BDB and tried to work through them.
But that's not what I asked for.
And I will
quite
change.
frank,
If he wants to represent us he's a legend, so if he wants to represent the banking industry and is willing to come, I'm perfectly comfortable being just Denny Hudson.
It's now been a week and a half since it was passed and since we had our conference call with the senator's office. You have to appreciate the fact that I'm still getting a paycheck through this county. We have others that are not. And we have businesses that are closed down, and we have restaurants that aren't functioning. So every day that goes by, I had actually a person ask me the other day, what were we waiting for after the last workshop we had? Not workshop, we had our Thursday or Friday meeting last week. So please, at the next meeting, find someone, doesn't have to be Denny, whoever it is, but find someone from the banking industry that can articulate exactly what our business community needs to do this. At least I'm one of us asking for.
I absolutely, completely concur. I talked this meeting up that we were going to actually have a substantive direction on how small business could take advantage of the PPP, or even is there a preposition, like essential businesses are essential today, tomorrow they can't be. Is there a way that they're in the batter's box prior to having to lay off employees, and that would help them make that decision? So without that direction, it's just...
I think, from the Business Development Board has the Biz Hub, they have their hotline. For this week, we've been focusing on, we've had a lot happen with the governor's order, and I do respect that this body's asked for an expert to come, but I think there's two things here. Number one, our BDB has been fielding hundreds of phone calls. Is my business essential? Is my business not essential? They have their hotline. They've been working on it. The second part is, I think if you heard from the speakers, they too, there was a lot of confusion. I appreciate that you all have insight from the senator's offices, and we're working with that. But I believe even you yourself, Commissioner, we've had changes to the process. Now, I will definitely reach out and we'll get someone from the banking to do that, but I think it just needs to be reiterated. This thing keeps changing. We could leave here in 10 minutes after you adjourn. It could change. We've seen that even with governor's executive order. So I will make sure we reach out, get someone from banking and to do that. But I would strongly advise, if you have a business and they have questions, call the Business Development Board. They will steer you in some type of direction to who you need to talk to. That's what I had heard.
Or their accountant, or their local
Yes.
banker.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my accountant's not helping me, so...
Got it.
So,
And you're wearing Seacoast green.
yeah. And I shouldn't trash my accountant, it's just that there is not...
television.
Yeah, on television, yeah, that probably wasn't, sorry, Eric. But, he's struggling as well as anybody else is. Because it literally clear as mud. So anyway, with that, yeah, that was great. I'm going to hear about that one for a while. Our upcoming board members' meetings are COVID-19 updates April 9th, 17th, and 24th. And our next regular meeting is April 21st.
Before we adjourn, I'd also like to remind people who are watching that you can look at MCTV for a daily update at 4 o'clock.
4:30. 4:30.
Thank you.
And our hotline number is 772-287-1652. The individuals that are assisting you on that line are our library employees that have been repurposed for that, and they're doing an awesome job.
Excellent. Okay, with that, we are adjourned.